Well, for the final time this season, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the final round, the 15th round to be exact, of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series for 2020 and 2021. I am, as always, your commentator, Mr. Marshall Crocker Jr., who has brought to you, well, now 15 rounds of this new series for 2021 and 2020. 2020, 2021. I'll never quite, never quite get that right, but that's just one of the things we come to expect from this series, aside from some hopefully great racing, and we've had some so far this season, so I hope to make that the case again tonight. But this is our finale, our double points end of the season for round 15 at Laguna Seca. We've already crowned our champion. Logan Paxa has mathematically guaranteed himself the top of the points, but well, we still got some more stuff to go over. We'll go over the rest of your race details on the warm-up lap. For now, we do have to get into your qualifying session here to get ready for tonight's final round. We've got some qualifying spots and some qualifying points to hand out. That way we can officially crown our other 3 top spots on our championship this season. It is not just the top spot in the championship. We've also got some second and third place prizes as well as an award for the driver with the least incident points, who has run a minimum of 13 races this season. So we got some stuff to hand out tonight. We're not done with the hardware, but we also got to we'll crown our final race winner of the season. We've had 14 so far this year, and we'll go over who those guys are in a little bit. Again, tonight was a little bit rushed. I had to put together a few things on the racing side, and we got all sorts of stuff to go over. So it'll be a big night. It'll be a busy event here at Laguna Seca. First of all, before we really get into things, and as we wait for the drivers to finish their first laps of qualifying, I just want to quickly apologize for that very quick and very brief segment and intro here into the race, and including a few graphics that were put up from a different series. There was all sorts of stuff to show there at the beginning, and unfortunately, I showed none of it, so we'll get things figured out as we go along tonight. And unfortunately, it just some stumbles early, but hopefully that is just temporary. But for now, I'll thank all of you guys again later, I'm sure, throughout the broadcast as we wait for guys to finish up their first laps. Logan was fastest in sectors 3 and 4. Andrew was fastest in 5th on the very first lap. But again, this here is the lap where these times start counting, so we will have to keep an eye on that. But just, first of all, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for every race that you guys have showed up to all season. The turnout for every driver from every walk of life has just been incredible, and it warms my heart and makes me so happy and so eager to put this race on every week and to put on the series, to get people updated, to put these broadcasts out. It's the complete package, and I know that it isn't always the most polished, it isn't always perfect, but I certainly do what I can with the time I have, and with university starting up in not too long, I'll probably be a little bit busier in some cases, or at least it's year 2 of university, so I'll do my very best to bring you guys either the second iteration of this series. I'm thinking a new series in the summer, sometime later after the karting season. Maybe, I don't know, Heatwave Open Wheel Racing Series has a nice ring to it, but that is not officially set in the cards yet. But whatever it is, it'll be bigger and better, and we will get you all the details on that post-race, or at least what I'm able to, and we'll crown our champion, Mr. Logan Paxa, regardless of where he finishes tonight. But first, we have a qualifying session to go over, our final of the season, and we have had some great qualifying sessions this season, so this one is going to be big. Here is Mr. Andrew Bedrosian, second in the championship, trying to hold on to that second place spot in the points this season. He will be your first driver to run a major lap, and he will, a 1:20.176. Tanner Dignard, who's been really quick in practice, he'll come across third for the time being, because Logan Paxa will take over spot number 2. Your series champion, driving in his Burrell entry that he himself created. Well, he is going to do his very best tonight to get win number 10 on the season to cap off the calendar on a high note. But he's got to beat this man as well. Mr. Tanner Dignard setting the third best time of the session, less than a second down on Andrew Bedrosian's time, just into the 121s. Max Preston after that, just behind him in his Arrows entry in the 4th spot. And Rich Foligno, who won our practice race last night in that white and orange number 99 car, he will set a lap somewhat in the probably early 121s, about a 121.3. So all sorts of laps being set as we speak. The car numbers aren't loaded, so we're going to pull that off the timing tower for now, and for now we're just going to focus on the drivers. So there is Rich Foligno. After that, Trevor Anderson, who's battling for a top 3 spot in the championship tonight. He's 10 points back of Max Preston in 3rd, and he's 30 back of Andrew Bedrosian in 2nd. But again, don't forget, double points tonight. You can get a maximum of 62 points if you get every bonus point and win the race. So double that, and that's the maximum number of points one driver could get on tonight's race. There's Tim Salvatore, who's currently running 7th. Caleb Campbell is running just ahead of him in 8th. And David Paxa has yet to set an official time. He currently runs 9th. Well, let's keep an eye here on the sectors as Andrew Bedrosian will run his second flying lap of the session. He'll put a 1:19.8 on the board. Logan trying to one-up him as he crosses the line. Where will he go? He'll improve, but down by 36 thousandths of a second. Can Tanner improve? He will not. He'll stay in third. Max will stay in fourth. Nobody really improving here on this particular lap. And again, you got to watch the tire wear as they go on. That'll make it tougher to set a hot lap. Here is Tim Salvatore. I think he's going to be a little bit down in the top lap, so we'll go to somebody else. But no, he will improve. Great lap from Tim Salvatore. My timing tower was playing tricks on me. He does go to third, but Rich Foligno will jump him. The 99 car who won last night's practice race. He did a great performance. He was the most solid and consistent of anybody, but he spins around on the exit to turn number 2, so that was a great lap, but Rich Foligno's got to keep the thing on track if he wants to try to improve upon it, but he is temporarily third for the time being, or at least provisionally, I should say, because there's nothing to say that he can't do it again. Andrew Bedrosian has not set a faster sector on any of his first 3. Logan Pax has been quickest of anybody in sectors 2 and 3, but he does have kind of a negative sitting there on his timing tower. I don't know what that refers to. I don't know if he's got a penalty or something like that, but Andrew did go fastest in Sector 4. Logan's going to run his personal best in Sector 4, but it's not faster than Andrew's. Was Andrew that much quicker in Sectors 4 and 5? Can he improve upon his lap with about 4.5 minutes to go in qualifying? Let's see. He cannot. He will stay first, but is about a half a second down on his lap. I don't know what Logan's timing tower stuff is doing, but he comes across this time. Will he go to the top of the board? He will not. I think he ran it off track at some point in the lap, which is why his telemetry was all messed around there. David Paxton still has yet to run a lap in this session. He currently sits at the bottom of the board, but now he sets a time. Going to go about 2.5 seconds down on Andrew's pole lap, so he's going to go to 8th for the time being. We got Caleb Campbell, who appears to have also gone off track, hence why his telemetry is all messed up. Here is Marshall Crocker Sr., my father, coming out of the final corner there. His timing tower number is going to be a little bit off. He's riding in the number 15 Sahara Force India entry, which is black, and he'll jump to 9th on the board there. So his blue number will not be accurate, but Rich Foligno should be, and everybody else's should be accurate and up to date. Rich will not improve. You saw the spin there at the beginning of his lap, which would make sense there. So he is not going to improve. Carl Dronke as well. Looks like he has also gone off track and taken an incident point, meaning that his time will be deleted, and thus he will not show up properly on the timing graph. But Andrew Bedrosian then, once again, becomes the next driver on the bubble. He's better than his personal best in sectors 2 and 3, but Logan set the fastest of anybody in those 2 sectors on his lap that he's running currently. So through the final corner here at Laguna Seca, we'll go over the track map in just a moment so you can see what the rest of the track besides this corner looks like. But here comes Andrew Bedrosian. Can he improve? I don't think he's going to be able to. Only down by 9 thousandths though. Great consistency from Andrew on that lap, but Logan Paxa crosses the line. He goes to pole, 119.572. We've run 2 races at this track in the last 2 years in my series. Logan has won both of them, and I believe he's taken pole in both as well. So Logan has just been a lockdown, pretty much guaranteed to do well here at Laguna for 2 years of series I've put on. Now at attempt number 3, we'll see if he can do it again. But here is David Paxa, just ran the 6th fastest time. Went 4 thousandths up on Max Preston here. Now let's see on Tim Salvatore. He'll jump to 3rd. Going to go about a 10th ahead of Rich Foligno, who he leapfrogs up into 3rd. It's a great lap there from Tim Salvatore, trying to put himself in the front 2 rows. One of those drivers who, despite having many podiums this year and lots of success, has yet to get a win. Same with Rich Foligno, who comes across the line once again, will not improve. So he's going to have to find just a little bit more pace if he wants to put himself back up into that 3rd spot, or maybe even better. But here is Trevor Anderson in the number 25 San Diego Padres entry that he did design himself through the finish line. Going to jump to 6th. Look at the gap between Tanner Dignard in 5th and Max Preston in 8th on the timing tower. That is just such small margins, such a close margin for error, really, truly. Here is the tiniest mistake can put you anywhere in that range, and maybe even higher, maybe even lower. It depends on the mistake. But here is Andrew Bedrosian. Did not improve this time. At least my telemetry is telling me it wasn't a great lap from Andrew, so he will not improve. Justin Lillick will not set a time this lap. Logan was fastest in Sector 2. Well, he improved. Justin does get on the board, so he'll go 11th, but it was just a lap out of the pit, so it will not be good enough for a top 10 spot. Logan does not improve. Oh, he does, just barely. So 119.535 becomes the new provisional pole lap, but Max Preston improves upon his time. Going to jump to 5th, only 14 thousandths down on Rich. Logan is in the pit, so he is just letting his time stay on the board. It means it's up to Andrew Bedrosian to try to beat it. But here is Tim Salvatore trying to lock down that top 3 spot. He does, only goes 9 tenths down on the pole lap. That's a 120.4. Great lap there from Tim Salvatore. Now Marshall Crocker going to come across the line. We'll see if he's able to improve. Does he? He does not. He's going to stay 9th for the time being provisionally. So we'll keep an eye on other drivers. Rich and Caleb do not improve. Now let's go to Trevor Anderson. And again, he's got a big night tonight. The 25 car. He's got to try to go for that number 2 spot in the points, or maybe number 3. He's got the potential to take away some big money from tonight's race. So he's got a lot to fight for, but he will not improve. He's going to stay 7th provisionally. Trevor's had a great year, but 7th for his standards is actually kind of low there on the timing tower. So I don't know, maybe more time to be gained there later in the race. Maybe Laguna's just not one of his strongest tracks, but whatever it may be, if Trevor wants to take away a top 3 spot, he's got to beat both Max Preston and Andrew Bedrosian, who, at least in terms of qualifying, have looked quick tonight. So, got some stuff to figure out for these guys, but you never know. There's always potential for a great finish in tonight's race, and just pure race pace. It's something that I know Trevor's had a lot of in the past. But Justin Lulick is going to jump into the top 10. He will jump Caleb Campbell up into that number 10 spot. So it's been a great session here so far for Justin Lulick, who's had a great year overall. I've been so impressed with what I've seen from Justin Lulick since he returned to the series. He missed a few races to start off the year, but since then, he's taken away a few podiums, including one recently at Spa. So he has had a good go of it. And we'll see if that continues tonight. Andrew did not improve upon his lap time. He's pulling off the track, actually. So as the checkered flag comes out for qualifying, drivers will have one more opportunity to finish off their laps. Will the 15 car improve from 9th? He will not. Crocker will stay 9th. Will Caleb improve? Currently sits 11th provisionally. Will he go faster? He doesn't. Caleb Campbell will also stay 11th through that lap. So Trevor Anderson, one more try to put himself up there in the top 6 at least, maybe the top 5 in an earlier row. That was a good lap. That should improve his time. It will. He'll put him in the top 5 with a probably, got to calculate that, just into the 120s, probably a 120.9, somewhere in that ballpark. So Trevor Anderson will put himself up in the top 5, at least provisionally. David Paxa and Tim Salvatore, who we're on board with right now. Let's go to an onboard camera here on Tim, just so we can see him run the full final couple sectors here at Laguna Seca, down through the world-famous corkscrew. A corner we'll be seeing, I'd imagine, lots of action in tonight. But Tim is just finishing up his lap here. He was fastest in Sector 1, but he was slower than his personal best in Sectors 2 and 3. That was a lot of wheel spin. And Tim Salvatore goes around, just couldn't lock the car down. Too much oversteer, and that is a major problem people often have here at Laguna Seca. But David Paxa finishing up his lap. That was a good time as well. Can he improve from 8th? He will go all the way to 4th. Pushes Trevor Anderson out of the top 5. That'll put Max Preston now in the 5th position on the bubble. And Caleb Campbell, I believe, is the final driver left on track. Can he improve his lap? Caleb through the final couple of sectors, but he is well down in his best time. So I think that'll put things in the books. Max Preston's pulling off the track as well, and now so is Caleb. So with that will draw your final qualifying session of the year to a close. And your series champion, he's walked it up into tonight, even with a double points event. Logan Paxa will be your final pole sitter. And what a year he has had. We just got to wait a quick moment before we can officially put up the final results here in qualifying. But while we have a moment, because, man, I got a lot of stuff to go over here, let's post your track map for tonight's race at Laguna Seca. There is the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca here for the final round of our series. Corner number 1 is that small kink uphill next to the pit exit. Then the Andretti hairpin, a world-famous corner with certainly going to have lots of passing opportunities, especially on restarts is where they are most prevalent. So we'll have to keep an eye on that area of the track tonight. Very similar looking 3 and 4, 2 high-speed corners that are all about hitting the inside apex. The uphill turn 5, then the uphill turn 6, down the Ray Hall straight up towards the world-famous corkscrew. That downhill sweeping corner, one of the most famous in the entire service, will certainly have more than its fair share of moments tonight. We actually do have a pretty interesting looking corkscrew camera that shows you drivers as they come up to the top of the corkscrew and down it all throughout tonight's event. Then down through the downhill left-hand rainy curve, we just saw Tim Salvatore go around there in qualifying, so we know how tricky it can be. That alternating altitude there can be really tough on tires, especially with the lack of grip, as this car has shown in the last few weeks. The turn 10 right-hander, which I actually find a lot of difficulty with. I'm not sure if the drivers would mimic that. Then either the pit exit, or the pit entrance, I should say, or if you choose to round off the lap as usual, turn number 11, that low-speed corner with a high bank curb there on the inside, can make it tough to hit the apex. But once you do, it is the long run down the starting straight, past the start-finish line, through corner 1, and back up to the Andretti hairpin. With that being said, there is the grid for tonight's race, and let's put up your final qualifying results of the season. And there they are here at Mazda WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. There are your 14 drivers in tonight's event. Joshua Jablonski, he is Caleb Campbell's spotter. I don't believe he meant to join the race as a driver, and it doesn't look like he'd been in the starting lineup. So we can put Joshua Jablonski to the side. The 14 car is Caleb Campbell's spotter for the entire season, but he has not run a race to this point, so you can discount him there. Carl Dronke and Jack Hillier, who neither of which ran a lap in qualifying, will get those next 2 spots. So on the pole tonight, with a 119.535, your series champion, Mr. Logan Paxa. After that, Andrew Bedrosian will start in second in the number 5 entry. He's about probably 27 hundredths of a second down, which is actually one of the larger margins they've had all season in terms of qualifying. So maybe Logan just showing some of that pace he's shown in previous seasons at Laguna Seca. Tim Salvatore looking for his first win of the season in this series. He's currently 5th in points, could go up as high as 4th. but he will round off the grid in third. David Paxton, the 53 car, on the outside of row number 2. He will start in fourth. Max Preston after that, starting in fifth in the number 6 entry. He's had a great year as well. He's had plenty of podiums, looking for yet another tonight. We'll see how that endeavor goes for him. After that, we got to go through the rest of your field. We got Trevor Anderson rounding off the top 6. He is battling with both Max Preston and Andrew Bedrosian for second and third in the points tonight. Remember, those are money-paying spots, so it'll be a big night tonight for Trevor Anderson. We'll see what he can do in that number 25 entry. Then after that, Rich Foligno, who again won our practice race last night. Rich has shown plenty of potential to make the podium spots this year, but just hasn't quite been able to get over that top hump. He's had some issues with luck this season, so he's hoping for a big result. Tanner Dignard will start in the 55 car in the 8th position. Marshall Crocker will start 9th. Justin Lewick will start all the way down there in 10th. Didn't seem to get a good lap put together there for his efforts, so he will start in the 10th spot. Caleb Campbell will start in the 11th spot in the 11th car. And Carl Dronke and Jack Hillier will round out the last 2 spots on the grid. Before we go green tonight, we got to hurry because we have an in-car interview to do with Mr. Jack Hillier, who wants to thank all of those of you at home for watching all the broadcasts this year. He has joined me in the broadcast booth the last couple races, so he has played a special part in the series, and as a result, we want to give him his chance to say thank you to those at home. Hey, Jack, it's Marshall up in the booth. You got me? Hey, Jack, it's Marshall up in the booth. You got me? Hey, Jack, can you hear me? Hey, Jack. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Jack. Well, we don't have much time. We only got a couple more corners before we go green here, but you had a thank you. I wanted to say to everybody at home as one of our co-commentators this year.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the drivers for making the series happen, and you, Marshall, and I'd like to thank everyone at home for watching, because without you guys, the series would not have been able to happen. So I'd like to thank you all, and Marshall and Vince, for getting this series all put together. So thank you all.
Awesome. Well, it is my pleasure, Jack. Have a great race tonight and best of luck, but we got to head to the racing action. And we are green here tonight. Sorry for the delay there. We have gone green for the final time this season at Laguna Seca. We're side by side already through turn 1. Andrew and Logan, who have been battling all season, they've taken the top 2 spots in the championship. They go side by side through turn number 3. What a start to the race. Logan will take the top spot through turn number 4, but Tim Salvatore, keep an eye on him in the background. Things have already gotten nuts, and we've only just started here in round number 15. Logan Pax is still leading through the first lap. No cautions as of yet. Everybody is still on track. We'll throw the track map up. Oh, that's a little bit big. I forgot how big that track map could be. We'll bring it back in a little bit, but we got some racing action to cover here first. There is Tim Salvatore, not too far behind, currently sitting in third. Max Preston, after that, has already moved up 1 spot past David Paxa in his quest to a top 3 spot in the championship, maybe even second. But first, he's got to go catch Andrew Bedrosian up front. David Paxa behind him in the number 53 car rounds out the top 5. Trevor Anderson still in 6th after that. Everybody's spreading out a little bit on this first lap here at Laguna Seca. A very tricky track and certainly difficult when you take into account the slipstream to the car in front. Taking that arrow push off the front wing and can make it tougher to get around the more tricky high-speed corners here at Laguna Seca. So definitely doesn't make it easy here to drive. And Logan Pax has already taken 7/10 on Andrew Bedrosian there in second. Logan Pax, your series winner, we've already declared. He's your series champion. We'll talk to him post-race, but he is going for win number 10 tonight, and he is off to a good start in that endeavor. We'll show you the series points in a little bit, but first of all, we got some racing action to do. That way, once we get the points up, you'll know where people are heading into tonight and who is in important spots to move up and move down in tonight's double points race. But just keep in mind, the 3 guys you want to keep an eye on are Andrew Bedrosian, who we see here in second, followed by Max Preston, who is currently sitting in 4th, who is he is 30 points back of Andrew Bedrosian. That's about 3 or 4 spots in a double point race, so Max needs to win by a semi-considerable margin. And Trevor Anderson, who is 40 back of Andrew, 10 back of Max, could have a big night tonight, but he has got to make up a bunch of spots on those 2 gentlemen. Keeping an eye on Justin Lewick, who I saw lose a couple spots there on lap number 1. He started all the way up. Well, he started in 10th, and I believe he was up to 8th for a moment provisionally, but he has since dropped back to 11th. I think just went around maybe for a spin at one point early on in the lap, or maybe got off track or something like that, but he has dropped down to 11th. Carl Dronke is your biggest mover of the race so far. Here is the 38 car heading through the corkscrew. He started tonight in 13th. He is already up to 10th, so only 2 laps into tonight's 50-lap event. He is making some progress, and things are working well for the number 38 car. After that, Caleb Campbell and Jack Hillier, your final 2 drivers on the lead lap. Jack Hillier, who we just talked to a moment ago. It was great to have him in the booth, and he had to say his thank yous because, well, he was played a huge part in the series lately. He was one of our co-commentators throughout the year, and as such, he has played more of a role in this series than almost anybody on track. But here is the battle for third. Max Preston going way wide through the entry to turn number 2. So wide such that he went off the track into the outside sand, and, well, gravel, sand, whatever you consider it here at Laguna Seca. So he gets the car back on track, makes up loses 6/10 to Tim Salvatore in front, I should say. So Tim Salvatore, he is off and running, looking for podium number 3 or 4 on the season. He has had quite a number of them so far this year, but Marshall Crocker is going to jump up to 8th, Tanner Dignard to 9th. Rich Foligno has gone off the track and out of the race. Huge damage to the number 99 car. Considerable damage. I'll keep an eye on a potential caution, but we did have a wreck. What happened there? Coming through turn number 4. So here's the 99 of Rich Foligno. I believe at the time he sat in 7th position. He got loose there coming through corner number 3, and Tanner Dignard, I think, taking his apex there for the corner, gets into him. Just barely was Marshall Crocker able to avoid him on the outside, gets back on track, but did take a brief excursion through the dirt. But Rich Foligno is the main casualty of that incident. He is off track, and for the first time all race, and possibly the last time all season, we do have a caution. So there is your first caution of the night as a result of that incident between Rich Foligno and Tanner Dignard. Hopefully as a result of the caution being called, both gentlemen can stay on the lead lap, as well as Justin Lewick, who also had damage as well. Let's see what Justin's damage was for, because we didn't catch Justin Lewick in that incident, so let's go back a little ways and make sure we can clarify what happened to him. There is the number 7 car of Justin Lewick. So this looks like it would have been a considerable time ago. I think this was certainly after the incident happened, but... before the incident happened, but not long before. So here's the 7 car coming up the hill here towards the corkscrew. Still good as we see, or at least as of right now. Let's probably name him. There is Justin Lewick there in the 7 car. So you see the trouble up front. We saw smoke there in the corkscrew. Both drivers up front were okay. So this actually would have been well after the incident, I would have thought. I think this would be under caution procedures. And yeah, just gets a little bit loose there through the downhill turn 10. Looks like he lost something in the car. I don't know if he blew a tire or had some suspension issues or what, but he just absolutely lost the back end there as a mechanical failure through turn number 10. And, well, that is him out of the race provisionally. I don't know if he was able to get back to the pits, but no, it looks like he was. So Justin Lewick, I believe, should still be on the lead lap. We'll see if he's out of pit service as we speak. He's not. He's still in the pits, and actually, he's out of the event. He's showing up as not in the session. So that is, horrible news, especially this early on in the race. I hope that's just temporary and Justin is able to return momentarily. But we got a few things to go over. First of all, there is Logan Pax up front, but we are going to talk to the guy in second there for our first in-car interview of the night. Our first of possibly 2. We might get one later with Max Preston as well. But for now, let's pull Mr. Andrew Bedrosian, sitting second in the points, qualified second in the event, into the booth. Hey, Andrew, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Well, Andrew, I mean, you came away with the second place spot tonight in qualifying, and certainly not an easy qualifier. Logan ran an absolutely flyer of a lap, and the guys a little ways further down in the midfield were running top times as well. But you come away with the spot that was comparable. You were keeping up with Logan there in those first couple laps, and, well, you've got something to prove tonight. You got a spot in the championship to hold down, trying to hold down second in the championship. So we know your racing style. We know you're one of the most capable guys in the entire series when it comes to making pass after pass during a race. But is that the approach you're taking tonight? Are you going to stick with that second place behind Logan, who you've had a battle with all season, if it helps your championship? Or are you going for every position possible, looking to cement yourself and get your second race win of the season tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I do like Logan's paint scheme, but I don't like looking at the back of his car, so I'm probably going to go and try the first spot. So, I mean, really, I mean, a win's a win, whether or not, I mean, I win the championship, so I'm going to try to win it. I almost won it last year, and I'm going to try to win this tonight.
Now, you've had plenty of success all year. You won at Oulton Park in your race win of the season, which I believe was, I think, round 8 or 9. Actually, a very similar track in a lot of ways. Lots of high-speed corners and lots of unforgiving off-track runoff. Is this, I think, in any way to you, reminiscent of your race there at Oulton Park? And with the tracks being so similar, do you feel like that's going to give you a good advantage after already having won at a similar road course this season?
I mean, there is a lot of places to drop off a wheel here, and the car will just swing around on them, pretty much anybody. So, I mean, it is going to be a slippery track, and a lot of people are prone to accidents. So we're just going to see where that takes everybody. And Yeah, so I'm just going to try to put as much pressure on Logan as possible. We almost had him at the start of the race, so we're going to see what we can do at this this restart.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. And I mean, a 50-lap race, certainly not a short event here with the longer laps here at Laguna Seca. You're ending your championship off with this race tonight. Is there anything you want to, prove to yourself tonight? You talked about going for the race win, but are you hoping for maybe an incident-free race, a race where you lead most laps or something like that? Is there a certain milestone you want to take away from this event besides just the race win to round off your calendar year?
I mean, really just want to beat Logan Pax at a second road course of the season and take raise that bar of my most wins in a season. So right now it's currently 1. So let's see if we can make it 2.
Awesome. I like that thinking. Well, I wish you the best of luck, Andrew. I'll give you the full next warm-up lap. I believe the lights on the pace car are about to come off, and I believe they are momentarily, and they're off. So you got 1 lap to go. Best of luck, Andrew. You get your tires warmed up there for us, and we will maybe be talking to you after the race. But regardless, best of luck tonight, man, and have a great rest of your race.
All right. Thank you, Marshall.
And with that, that'll be your second in-car interview of the night here with Mr. Andrew Bedrosian. And man, if you talk about guys that have had an up-and-down season, I don't think it gets any more so than Andrew Bedrosian. I mean, you talk about the beginning of his year. He was tick for tack with Logan every single race. He was quickest at Road America, you could argue. I believe he took the pole there as well as he did at our season opener at Charlotte Roval. He's quickest in practices through the week. He's often quickest in qualifying. He's had, I think, the most poles of anybody this season. I believe the pole award this year does go to Andrew Bedrosian at 7. So he has had an absolutely dominant year from a pure pace perspective, but in terms of race pace and consistency, that's where Logan Paxa, our series champion, has just been able to find more wins, and, well, he's done so, taking away 9 wins on the season, looking for number 10 tonight. Logan Paxa is just, he's had something that's super hard to replicate, and I don't necessarily know how to put it or what it is, but, well, whatever it may be, Andrew is going to have to figure it out tonight and channel some of that Logan energy that he's had all year if he wants to come away with the second win of his season and his 3rd win all time in one of my series. Let's very quickly, before we get going here, we'll pull down the rest of the graphics here. We'll put up your point standings heading into tonight's race. That's one thing we do need to clarify, because those will have a huge effect on how tonight's event goes. These are the updated drop race points, so these are what we're basing it off of heading into tonight's double points event before the finale. Logan Paxa, your series winner, has clinched it with 586 points, more than any other driver can amass in one race. Andrew Bedrosian in second with 462, 432 for Trevor Anderson, and 422 for Max Preston. I think those are flipped around. Sorry, those 2 spots there are flipped around. 432 should be for Max, 422 should be for Trevor. But after that, Tim Salvatore with a 384 in 5th, Carl Dronke with 368. And you can read the rest there, or feel free to rewind if you need to read this sheet. But we got to get ready to get going. Pace car is taking the hard left onto pit road, and that means we are ready to go green tonight for the second time, the first time off a restart. Logan gets a quick jump here for the second start of the night. So green flag for the second time in tonight's race, and the first caution restart, possibly the final one of the season. Here at Laguna Seca, Logan Paxa will lead the field down the run into the first turn. Marcus Crocker Sr. is in pit lane, has decided to pit there under the final lap of the caution period. So not sure what his plan is there. Might be a strategy call, but whatever it is, he is in the pits. A little ways back, Rich Foligno, who is a lap down, has already got one spot back. He's passed Tanner Digner there at the start of this stint, so a good start to this run here for Rich Foligno. But David Paxa, a little ways further back, has got to hold off Trevor Anderson to start off his stint. David Paxa, who despite the great season he's had overall, still unfortunately has yet to take away a podium, and, well, you never know. Tonight is the night. He's got Tim Salvatore not too far up front, but he's got Trevor Anderson right behind, and again, Trevor Anderson has a lot to fight for tonight, wants a top 3 spot in the points, maybe even a top 2 spot, depending on how well he can do tonight. But he is off to a good start here in this stint. Everybody nice and clean as we finish off we're getting towards finishing off our first lap here after the caution restart, and there's Carl Dronke in the background, the 38 car, that I want to talk about very briefly, because Carl's a guy I don't think I talk about enough about in this series, but he was a race winner in our other double points race on the calendar at Indianapolis, so he knows what it's like to win in those high-intensity situations. And Carl, kind of a skippy champion of this service as a whole. I mean, we call Michael Krobacher Oval Guy, and he won a race last week at Gateway, but, man, Carl Dronke is just the Skip Barber master. He knows what it's like to race an open-wheel car. We'll just have to see tonight if he can transfer all that success over to the Indy Pro and get win number 2 on the season, or at least maybe podium number 2 would be a good place to start. Caleb Campbell in the 8th spot has come down into pit road. Doesn't seem to have any considerable damage, but the 11 car is going to take pit service here. So, I don't know, maybe a fuel strategy for some of these guys pitting so early in the stint? I can't imagine, but there's a genuine possibility that is it. So for the time being, we're going to go back to Tim Salvatore, who continues to hold down the 3rd spot. Again, looking for podium number 3 on the season after a podium at both trying to remember. I think he had one at we had one at Mosport, maybe Spa was his most recent podium. I'm trying to remember. He's certainly had his fair share of podiums this season, so I don't think it was Spa, but a very recent road course. So Tim's had a great year so far, but this is the closest battle on track that we got to look at. Here is the side-by-side, or, well, it's not a side-by-side anymore, between Trevor Anderson and David Paxa. The 25 car will take that spot heading up to the corkscrew, but we are not done. Let's keep an eye on Dronky and Paxa as they come down through the corkscrew. Dronky did check up in order to avoid the 53 car, but that will give Paxa the opportunity to pull away a little bit, and the 53 car taken away and making up some ground on the number 38 car, I should say, of Carl Dronky. So your top 6 are pretty spread out at this point. Nobody's really running too close together on track, which is good in the short term. If we don't want to caution, it means that guys aren't running in the dirty air of each other, and in turn, they should have more downforce through the corners. And that's going to be vital if you're Andrew Bedrosian, who is starting to make up ground on your race leader, Logan Paxa. He's led all nine laps of tonight's event so far, but he is not out of the woods just yet. He's got Andrew Bedrosian right behind him, and again, we talked to him just a moment ago in his interview, but Andrew is a hungry driver, and he's a guy that, in terms of individual race performance, he's going to think about his hopes for a win over the championship, general situation anytime. And I think it's part of why Logan has just been so good this season, is he always thinks about the bigger picture, and he makes the safe moves. But really, if you come to the end of the season and you're Andrew Bedrosian, you know that your rival has already taken away the top spot. Might as well just go for it. Might as well just send it and do whatever you can to take away any spots you can from him. So we'll keep an eye on Andrew as he comes up the hill here towards the corkscrew. We'll check on this opportunity, but a little ways further back, Caleb Campbell has just made the move on Jack Hillier. Let's go to that battle very quickly, or not much of a battle, because the 11 car, the 11 Oreo entry, the fan favorite of Caleb Campbell, has made the pass on Jack Hillier, so he's up into 8th in tonight's season finale. But back up to the front here, through turn number 10, that downhill right-hander, Logan Paxa, does a great job to stick it there on the outside apex, and we will take the run down to turn number 11. Andrew Bedrosian is right behind your series leader, series champion of Logan Paxa there in the 16 car. And I mean, Andrew has a personal relationship with this track. If you remember back to my old series, that was the Carts to Computers Racing Series, our second season specifically. Our race here at Laguna Seca last time was actually won by Max Preston, I should say. I think I said it was Logan earlier. But Max and Andrew had a battle till the very final corner where Andrew came off track, and so did Max. But Max was able to get back on track in time and take away his first win in a series history that I've run. Andrew did come home for second, but he led a considerable portion of that event. Though they did get together in that race, and the two of them crashing was what put Logan out of the event for the time being in that race. So you got to wonder, is Logan looking for redemption in that regard? Is Andrew looking to get his win that he couldn't quite come away with last year? So many questions up in the air, and everybody drives for different motives. But we will have to wait and see. There is your series leader, and, well, race leader, I should say, Mr. Logan Paxa. We got to keep an eye on Andrew Bedrosian as well as the guys behind. So let's go back to that battle for third. That is Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson. Unfortunately, I didn't quite get the chance to catch the chat until now, but yes, Justin, if you want to hop in the Discord, my man, there is always a spot in the broadcast booth for you, and he's already here. Let's pull Mr. Justin Lewis into the broadcast booth for you, and we'll get a co-commentator, a guest star, here for the remainder of tonight's race. We'll put the battle up front on the screen for the time being, but let's pull Justin into the booth. Mr. Justin Lulick, welcome back to your second race ever in the broadcast booth. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Marshall. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad. I'm really sorry to hear that your VR is giving you issues. I know that some of the VR guys this season have certainly had their fair share of issues, but I'm sorry to hear that. I was really hoping for a good finish off to the season for you. But, I mean, you ran laps there in practice. You were getting warmed up, and you did run a lap there in qualifying. From what you know of Laguna and what you ran there in qualifying, you want to just tell us what we should expect from a driver's perspective in tonight's event?
Yeah, well, this is a fantastic track, especially from the driver's perspective. I had gotten the opportunity to do quite a few practice laps over the week just to get into the flow of the track, and I absolutely love it. It's a perfect blend of sharp turns and nice straights for the drivers, just leaving enough time to think about your next turn, think about how you want to enter it. And for me personally, I was ready to go. I was running, I think my best time was a 1 minute 20.3. I was excited for qualifying, and then ran into the technical issues. But that's how racing goes, and I'm just happy that I have been able to compete in this season so far.
Oh, and it's been my pleasure to have you, Justin. You've had some great performances all season. You've come away with 2 podiums, which is more than many can lay claim to. So you've certainly had a championship worthy, whether or not you were able to finish tonight's race. Though I really wish you'd been able to. But right now, got to keep an eye on Marshall Crocker Sr. has come off track in turn number 4. The 15 car has run off a little bit wide, possibly involving in an incident with Rich Foligno, who doesn't appear to have any damage. I think those are the 2 guys I saw on track together as he had those troubles. So Got to wonder if something was there, but no caution was called as a result because no drivers took damage in the incident. And right now we're back up to this lead battle between Logan and Andrew that we've seen many times this year. And I mean, Justin, you've had the pleasure of watching and racing with both guys all season. They're in slightly different spots here in the championship. Logan has, of course, clinched the championship into tonight's event with his consistency, but Andrew is always very hungry there for first and comes away with a lot of poles. What do you think it is? Do you think it's some sort of mental aspect that separates the two drivers? And I think in a lot of ways they're opposites from each other, but from your time racing them, what are your experiences with both Andrew and Logan?
Well, I think definitely they're different drivers with their different strengths, and I think their different strengths have been able to allow them to get to the point where they are in this championship. I mean, this is a perfect example right here, just being able to see them battle it out. As you can see, Logan is just so precise with his line that he's chosen, with the where he chooses to apex. He's doing such a perfect job with where he wants to have the car and where he wants to precisely position the car going into the next corner. And I find with Andrew, he's putting himself in the right positions. He's just waiting for that mistake from Logan. And I mean, we've been watching Logan race all year, and sometimes he makes that mistake, sometimes he doesn't. So I guess we're just going to have to see how their alternative, let's say, racing styles can kind of come into play here, and we can see firsthand which one will give him the advantage.
Yeah, and you talked there, Justin, about Logan's smooth driving style, how he's able to seamlessly weave together apexes. That's really all Laguna Seca is about. So many high-speed turns. There's not really those opportunities at other tracks where there's those certain sections that give you trouble more than one another. It's just, I mean, you could argue the corkscrew, but past that, it's a very similar track in a lot of sectors. So as long as you can do that and you can stay consistent as Logan's been, then he is going to be in business. But we got to mention, I showed it just a moment ago there, but Carl Dronke has at least come off track. He's currently in the pits serving some damage. You saw that collision he had in turn number 4 where we had issues previous. Rich Felino went around there earlier, which is what brought out the first caution of tonight's event and put him a lap down. So that corner, turn number 4, has been giving people issues tonight, and it happened again for Carl Dronke. So he'll head back to 12th for the time being provisionally. Should be about 2 laps down when he comes out, provided his toe wasn't too long, and I don't think it will have been. So he should be back out only a lap down, which would be the 5th different driver in tonight's race that will be a lap down as of now. So there's going to be quite the battle there for the spots from 8th on back. But for now, still 7 drivers in the lead lap, including Mr. Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson, kind of your closest battle here on track. Let's compare their lap times to this point. So there is Tim's lap, running a 121.049 on the 8th lap, which was just barely faster than Trevor Anderson's. Then Trevor was faster lap 9. Lap 10, Tim Salvatore took back the advantage. Trevor was faster on lap 11. Tim was faster on lap 12, and Trevor Anderson just made up a half second there on lap number 13. So going back and forth between the two gentlemen, they've had quite the battle. And really, to this point in the race, it's looking tough to keep. Oh, that's the wrong screen. It's looking tough to keep consistency and make up good lap times lap after lap. I know I've certainly had trouble with it through this week doing my own practice efforts. So I ran in last night's practice race, and I found it really tough to consistently run your top times. It was something a couple of us drivers talked about, but almost the fact that if you try to kind of turn your brain off a little bit, you keep a more brain off quiet outlook on the race, and you're not focusing on each individual apex and corner, you actually run quicker because you put less stress on yourself. You can really get into the flow more, and you can really work with the rhythm of the corners, which is so important here at Laguna. Justin, do you think there's any truth to that? The idea that the less you focus and the less hardcore you think about each individual corner, the faster you are as a whole?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of validity to that statement. I find that in a lot of cases in motorsports, and I guess in sport in general, a lot of it is getting out of your own way. Being able to allow your muscle memory to take control. For a lot of these drivers, they've done tens and hundreds of laps. They know what they need to do. It's just a matter of actually getting the job done. And I feel like by shutting off your brain and almost putting yourself into a meditative state where you can just focus on the task at hand, I find that's the best way to be able to consistently run your laps. And unfortunately, with a track like Laguna, it's infamous for having very tight runoff and not a lot of space for the drivers to continue once they go off the track a little bit. And I find by limiting mistakes here, that's your best way to really move forward in the direction that you're looking to.
Right, and I think limiting mistakes in a lot of ways has been what has made Logan Paxton so successful this year to take home the championship, and certainly among other things. I do just have to slightly deal with a giant water spill I have here. You always got to have that one mistake here in the final broadcast. So we got a battle going between Rich Felino and Carl Dronke here on track, with Tanner Digner not too far behind. And of course up front, Logan Paxton and Andrew Bedrosian have not separated at all now coming up to lap traffic. So No pressure. I'm going to give you the reins here for just a second, Justin, as I got to go clean something up. But I'll be right back in a moment. Maybe we can go to a side-by-side, and we'll be back in just a second. So we will. We're going to go to our first side-by-side commercial. We'll keep you tuned into this battle up front, and we'll be back in just a moment. And we are back there. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, for the brief break. That was our first interview, or our first, side-by-side commercial of the night. Possibly our last for a little while. Probably going to maybe do one more there at lap 40. But for the time being, keep an eye here on this battle. Not much has changed in this regard. Trevor Anderson's made up some time on Tim Salvatore, and Max Preston's made up some time on David Baxa. So we could have some great battles here in the top 5, or top 6, I should say, in just a moment. But, well, always good to, get that last... those last broadcast of the year jitters out, and I did so in the form of spilling a water cup all over my computer area, but we're good. Didn't touch a computer, and only a couple cables for non-vital aspects, so we're all good. I'm all good for the time being. Yes, sorry, I can second your comments about Justin. I know his mic is a little bit quiet, but unfortunately I can't send it through a different port than the race audio, so I've done everything I can on my end, and we'll see if it's a little bit better in just a moment. But for now, we continue on tonight's broadcast. This battle up front between Logan and Andrew still continues on, but I want to talk very quickly, if we could just get a moment here, about Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson, and then we can go back to that battle up front if things progress.
How does that sound, Marshall? A little bit better?
That is perfect. Sounds awesome. Thank you, Justin.
Fantastic. No problem.
Awesome. So with that means we will be all good and ready to go for the rest of the race. But yeah, I just want to talk very briefly as David Baxa comes down pit road. We'll go to him in just a moment. Because he is one of your final drivers and one of only 6 left on the lead lap at this point. But we will go to him in just a moment. But yes, this is the battle here between Trevor Anderson and Tim Salvatore. Trevor Anderson trying to track down the number 91 car, who is stuck in lap traffic, actually. He's got Caleb Campbell and Marshall Crocker both 1 and 2 laps down a piece. What's the word I'm looking for? Respectively, I should say. So he has made it past 1. He's made it past Marshall. We're now into the corkscrew, and he's trying to get Caleb here as well. Caleb kind of checks up a little bit there, but goes to the outside, so he'll avoid him. Did Trevor have any better luck getting by these cars? Didn't seem to. He's still got to get by both as we head down through turn number 9 and 10, both downhill sections of the track, and kind of being held up a little bit, so he's having some struggles getting by there. But David Baxa becomes your first driver of the race to pit. 31 laps to go. You got to think he's good on fuel now, because I think that should be his last stop of the race. David Baxa is always a guy that does like to pit early, likes to try to take fuel when he can, and I know he's a guy that runs enough practice to probably calculate his own laps here. He calculated his own his own fuel stints, I should say. So if he did that, then he calculated it perfectly, let's hope, and that way he can get to the finish without the need for another pit stop. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we talk about the battles going forward. But for now, this battle up front continues, and Trevor Anderson, as a result of moving by lap traffic, I believe he has, is now made up by both Caleb and Marshall. But Tim Salvatore gets away with just that little bit more.
Well, that's such a big thing, is just being able to manage that traffic and being able to find or clean the line around it. Not always do the drivers. I know they get the blue flag, but for those who are unfamiliar, the blue flag comes out when you are being approached by a car that is on the lead lap, and you are then in the process of either being lapped or being passed by another car on the lead lap. But a lot of the times, the drivers may see it, but they may not know where the car is exactly. So it's kind of difficult sometimes just to position yourself as the driver passing in a position where you're not going to lose your momentum, but at the same time, you're going to be able to clear whichever driver's in front of you as soon as possible.
I have been really impressed all season about how our lap traffic has worked. I don't know about you, Justin. I mean, you'd have more of a first-hand knowledge than I would, but I find, generally speaking, that guys have been pretty good about getting out of the way and making plenty of room for leaders, especially at the ovals. But the road courses here can be a little bit tougher. There's certainly thinner sections. I mean, Justin, you've run at all sorts of tracks all over the world. There's definitely something to be said for the statement, I'd imagine, that sometimes it can be tough for lap traffic to move out of the way of some of the thinner sections like the one we see Trevor and Tim going through right now.
Oh, absolutely. And I find that the big thing that you notice is just with the more experience that drivers have under their belt, the better they're able to predict where, as a lap car, you're positioning yourself. And even more, if they're the lap car, they know exactly where to be to get out of the way. And I find through racing and through motorsports, it's just picking up the pieces and slowly learning here and there how to get better. And that's definitely something you've seen through the series, is drivers who have been in a situation where they have to either lap or be lapped. Over time, with more experience, they start to understand where exactly to go to maximize the absolute best drive that they can get out of the car.
Well, the battle continues here between Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson, but a little ways further back, we got Logan Paxa and Andrew Bjorgen who continue to stay there up front. Now their driver has come into the pits, so Andrew has had a habit in the past of, if he's in second, does try the undercut from time to time there, that being pitting earlier than the driver in front, in order to run some quick lap times on new tires and make up some time to jump in front of the driver in behind and force them to try to attack rather than defend. And really, I think Laguna Seca, probably one of those tracks where defense is the easiest. I mean, there's so few sections to pass as a result of both the high-speed corners, which can be brutal in terms of dirty air, and the slipstream in front. We got to keep an eye now in this battle for third as we talk about this. But yeah, the dirty air can be so brutal here, and some tracks like Laguna, it's always better to defend. Again, I don't know how much practice you got in this week, Justin, but you have run here in the past in previous series. So Laguna, do you think this is a track that's going to favor the driver defending rather than those trying to pass? And do you think the undercut strategy would be viable as we watch this battle for third?
I think in a lot of cases, a good defense is a really good offense. And in situations like this, as long as you're the lead driver and you're able to set up and choose your line into the corner, I find it's very hard to pass on a track like Laguna. Obviously, if you're able to get the split stream and you're able to get right up to the driver, then it's a good chance to go for it. But other than that, it is a track where if you know how to defend well, you can definitely utilize those skills, and which we are seeing happen right now with Tim Salvatore.
We are indeed. He is having a rough go of it now from Trevor Anderson, who's really starting to push here in this stint. Trevor, I ran with him in the 24 Hours of Daytona this year, so I know him quite well, and I know how he runs in longer stints. And Trevor has never really been like a push-for-it guy, make those big moves. You're never going to see Trevor make like a diving send into a tight hairpin or something like that, but he's just so consistent in his runs. He just... Yeah, I say this from the perspective of somebody who ran with him for a championship or for a major racing event and was watching him through some tight sections and just hoping he was going to keep it clean. But you have confidence in him because he doesn't seem to falter. He doesn't seem to make those little mistakes. And again, it's something that has worked for Logan Paxa, who I'd argue has quite a bit more pace in terms of just pure lap times than really almost anybody else in the field. But Trevor, he has a lot of those similar racing ticks to him, I'd say. He just does a lot of the same things and has skills in the same areas. So if he can just do that on Tim Salvatore, keep that applied pressure consistent for quite a long period of time, you could almost force Tim into a mistake if he has to keep checking his rearview mirrors. I know that's certainly a thing I've fallen into in the past, and checking your relative, checking your rearview mirrors, and it kind of takes your focus off the race in question. I'd imagine, Justin, you can back me up on that being the case on occasion.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. And that's one of the biggest things that Trevor Anderson has to focus on now if he wants to make this pass stick on Tim Salvatore, is he needs to make sure that he is everywhere in his rearview mirrors. He has to make sure, which is what he's doing, by sticking to the back of Tim, he's showing that I'm not going anywhere and I'm just waiting for you to slip up even a little bit. And I think if we do see Tim Salvatore make a slight mistake, Trevor Anderson will be right there to capitalize on it and to pick up those points.
And mistakes here at Laguna Seca can be so costly. I mean, you talk about the very limited runoff, the famous, kind of deserted backdrop of Laguna Seca, one that isn't held at many other tracks, maybe Sonoma, I'd argue, but certainly one that can be unforgiving when you do make that mistake. We saw that earlier with both Rich Foligno, Marshall Crocker, Carl Dronke, all of whom have made mistakes in that regard. Carl Dronke, as we speak, currently on pit road, so for the second time tonight, does have damage to his front wing, so perhaps was involved in a solo incident, but didn't see anything on my telemetry about that. But we're side by side now, coming up to turn number 5 between Salvatore and Anderson. Salvatore was a little ways ahead into the braking zone and prioritized that inside line, so he will hold the spot for the time being. But Trevor Anderson right on his back bumper as we come up the hill. We're coming towards the famous corkscrew and one of the trickiest corners in all of the service, really, as well as this particular track. So not a super easy passing zone, but one that always has the potential to allow for passes. Right now, though, Tim Salvatore runs it beautifully, and Trevor Anderson just dropped a little ways back there that last time by, but a much better run off the corner for the 25 car. He is right on the back bumper of Tim Salvatore. And I mean, if I'm Tim Salvatore, I'd almost contemplate a pit stop here before something gets too serious and we bring out the second yellow of the night, but they're two very talented drivers, and I have the utmost trust in both of them. But again, Trevor Anderson, we saw the first real attempt at ascend there through turn number 11. He is not backing down from this battle.
And I think for sure what he's going through Trevor Anderson's head is he's just thinking that as long as he's there, as long as he's biding his time, well, we might actually be seeing a pass here.
Well, very close, but yeah, Tim is just holding that inside the line, and I think in most of the corners of this track that are high speed, that's really all you got to do to keep the spot.
Yeah, I think what Trevor Anderson is thinking right now is just how can I be patient? How can I make sure I position myself right where I want to be so that when an opportunity arises, I can be there to pounce? Because in this situation, he's not going for the easy moves. He's going for where he thinks he can make it stick.
Nice block there by the 91 of Tim Salvatore. Again, just prioritizing the inside here through some of these turns where the inside the line is so easy to get a runoff of in the next corner. And that's the one thing Trevor's been doing a lot better, I've noticed, is through the corners. He's just getting a much better run. He's getting back on the power quicker, which down those longer straightaways can give him a ton of ground. And now he's got the best run he's had into the corkscrew all day. He's going to try it again. Here is our corkscrew camera as we come down the hill. Again, Tim Salvatore really taking the inside line. It can be more risky. You can risk running too much of the curb there and losing traction, but Tim didn't do it that time by, and the 91 car will keep chugging along there in second. As we get to the halfway point this lap, actually, Logan Pax has opened up about a 1.7 second lead, and he just finished off lap number 24, so one more lap to go until the halfway point. We're flying through tonight's event here at Laguna Seca, but again, it's just all the action we've had tonight. Makes things feel like they're going by quick. I'll let you call this one, Justin, because down into turn number 1, we are about to see a battle once again. Trevor going to go to the high line, but that may be the more ideal line towards corner number 3.
Yeah, so as you can see going into that, I mean, it's the same theme that Tim Salvatore has been showing this whole race. Is just he's picking his defensive line. He knows that he wants the inside. He knows that by having that inside, he gets optimal position going out of the corner and has the option to push Trevor Anderson out if he gets close enough. And, I mean, we've seen it there. We've seen it coming into here. Tim just knows, and you can see it right on your screen right now. Tim knows where to position, so he's in the best optimal place to exit the corner, and that is really, really, really well done defensive driving.
I think it really just exhibits the fact that Tim is very well practiced for the track. I mean, the more time you put in through the week, the more you can really get used to those various lines. And I think that's one pitfall a lot of drivers fall into as we see this battle for third going by Jack Hilliard, who moves to the outside to let these guys by. But I think that's one thing that can be so vital in practice, is not just practicing your basic line, running the same lap over and over to try to run your hot laps and getting used to that particular line. Because, Justin, in racing, you're not always going to be in that line. You're not always going to take that opportune, proper apex. And as we see Trevor Anderson come down pit road here, your first driver in the top 5 to do so. Well, I guess besides Max Preston, but as he comes into the pits, he's going to try the undercut, it would seem, on the 91 car. But yeah, you're not always going to get your more ideal line there, and sometimes you're just going to have to take the chance and run in zones that where you're forced as part of a battle. So if you just run the same line over and over in practice, you're just going to get into a kind of a linear one-line state of thinking, and you'll have trouble when you're forced out of that comfort zone in certain battles. And I know, Justin, that's I know you've had certain experience in real life that many other drivers, well, in this series or anywhere, haven't. You've been all over the world in all sorts of various endeavors. So would you say, again, there's some truth to that statement of you got to practice for more than just the line you're going to run your hot lap, but also one you could be forced to as part of a battle?
Oh, absolutely. And I find the difference with a long-term experienced driver is they're able to predict where the other drivers are going to go. They're able to see exactly what pieces of the puzzle are coming together in front of them and are able to react dependent on that. And the only way that you're able to get that confidence is by having that time in the sim practicing, by having that time going over the different scenarios because by doing that, you have a full picture of what you're going into, and by having that full picture, it's a lot easier to decide when the right time to make a move is, when the right time to stay put is. It really helps, and it all comes from that practice time, which really sets the foundation for the entire weekend. And as we see right now, Tim Salvatore is ducking into the pits, and we'll see if he's able to combat against the undercut that Trevor Anderson was attempting to perform on him.
Yeah, let's keep an eye there on that gap between the two gentlemen. But we saw there in the background just a moment ago a guy who's very well practiced. Mr. Rich Foligno won last night's practice race here in our Thursday night event here at Laguna Seca. He just made the move there on Caleb Campbell. And not too far back from Caleb is Tanner Dignard looking for that spot as well. But you're right, Justin. We got to keep an eye on this attempted undercut here from Trevor Anderson. He's run a great lap, and I think this is about to be a completed pass from Anderson. I think we see him coming up the hill here in the background. Let's keep an eye there, though. We'll look out the back of Tim Salvatore's car as he comes up the hill there. Trevor is right behind him. He is making his way down towards turn number 1, and really the main advantage as well, Justin, besides just the move. We've seen this in F1 all the time, but those warmer tires. Trevor's got 1 lap hotter tires than Tim Salvatore does, and you'd argue that's going to give him considerable more grip for this lap while Tim tries to get his up to temp.
Oh, absolutely, and I think we'll see in the next couple turns where if he's able to actually turn that into something. Because that's the thing, when you have the warmer tires, you have a slight advantage, but that advantage does not last forever. That advantage lasts for about a lap until the other driver is able to get their tires back up to temp. So we'll see here. You can see Trevor Anderson's gaining on him, and he's really able to maximize those tires. So we'll see if he's able to put it together by the end of the lap.
We will keep an eye on it. And yeah, Tim was already having a little bit of trouble there avoiding that outside apex. He was having to lift a little bit more than Trevor was already. So got to wonder how the two guys deal with cold tires differently. We'll see if that plays an effect on their battle. We saw in the front there a little ways ago, Tanner Dignard in the 55 car just made the move there on Caleb Campbell for 8th. Now Caleb Campbell having to, well, I guess not defend. He is a lap car, so he'll probably let Salvatore and Anderson by in their battle, but they are right next to each other. And speaking of the undercut there, Justin, another driver who just tried to pull it off, and we'll see if he can once Logan Paxton makes his pit stop, is Andrew Bedrosian. He just pitted that last time by, and as a result, he's going to lose a significant amount of ground. My timing telemetry seems to think he's right. There we go. It's now reset. So he is 25 seconds back now of Logan Paxton. A pretty good pit cycle, usually about 23, 24 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on him as that battle continues, but we'll see when Logan does come into the pits. Often he is the master of late pit stops, and he comes out and has to run very few laps in one set of tires, so really never gets to the point where he's on an older set of rubber. It's a good strategy, but in the short term might be what Andrew needs to make up a few spots. But now we're back to this battle between Tim and Trevor, and with Tanner Dignard up front, who is quick, but not quite as quick as these two have been all race. You got to wonder how lap traffic could affect this battle for third.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something to think about while you're in these positions. I know for sure Tim Salvatore is sitting there just hoping that when they are able to pick up and catch up to lap traffic, he's just hoping that it's nice and smooth. While at the same time, Trevor Anderson's hoping for the opposite. He's hoping to catch up and maybe have lap traffic trip up Tim a little bit. But we'll see what happens. But really, it all depends on how lap traffic is handled in this specific situation.
Well, Tanner himself is not a guy who's typically in this situation. I mean, Tanner's come away with a 4th earlier in the season. He's had quite a number of them. He was actually 3rd quickest in practice pre-race, so we know he's got the pace there. I don't think he's going to be an easy pass by any means, but certainly not a guy who's used to being in this spot. So we'll see how he does when these two guys do manage to catch up, if they do, I should say, because again, Tanner up front is not seeming to lose any ground there in the 55 Menards car. But here is Tim Salvatore again as we come down to the run down to turn number 1 and 2. That's in number 1, the left-hand kink there past the pit exit. Now up towards turn number 2 where the passing zone is, and Trevor sends it in nice and deep into the corner there. He's going to get to the outside, but no, has to go much wider. He's going to have to cut pretty tight there to avoid the outside curbing, and as a result, Tim Salvatore comes away with a couple of tenths, and even just tenths here can be valuable to a track like Laguna Seca, where really, you know, the further you can pull away from the car ahead, the worse the dirty air is through each individual corner, whereas when you get right behind, it almost nullifies the effect. So it's something to keep in mind, but you can also argue, especially here on iRacing, I find, when you get right up behind the car in front, it can be so tough to hit your apexes, and especially here as we come through the uphill section, it can be so vital to have to hit those apexes, because if you miss, you can be heading off into the off-hill gravel that these two gentlemen are driving by right now. So I think there's something to be said for that. They're running right behind another car can obscure your vision. I don't know if that's a sensation that you can agree with in real life there, Justin. I know it's a much different viewing point, but very quickly before we go back to that, Tanner Dignard has come off track in the number 55 car, the Menards entry, trying to return to the track, but he went off track on the exit to the corkscrew, and well, there we go. We talked about the lap traffic, Justin, but that is null and void now. The 55 car off track and has returned to the road, but he will stay 8th as Rich Foligno is currently your second fastest car in the lead lap, and after that, or off the lead lap, and then David Paxa currently sitting in 6th. So Tanner will come down pit road through the right-left little mini many hairpin chicane there on the pit entrance, I should say. So he will make that and has now entered pit road. But since we talked about it there, Tim Salvatore made up a little bit of ground. But again, this is where Trevor's been really quick all race, and with only 5/10 down, not much room to work with. But sorry, I was talking about it there, Justin, before Tanner came off track. But yeah, that idea of being right behind a car can somewhat obscure your vision of your apex, and make it tougher to nail the corners like the guy in front can. You've raced all over the world. I'm sure you've had more realistic experience with that. Is that something that you've also experienced in your past?
Well, absolutely, and it all depends on what type of vehicle you're driving. For those who don't know, I'm quite used to driving a shifter cart, and with a shifter cart, you have very little obstruction in terms of your view from the vehicle itself that you're driving. However, when you get up close to somebody, all of a sudden, your eyes almost magnetically are attracted to watching what the other driver is doing. And in a lot of cases like that, you can see that in all forms of racing. As soon as you allow your eyes to lock onto the other driver, you start following them and making the same mistakes, where at the same time you're able to keep the pace in a lot of situations. However, when it comes to making the same mistakes, in a lot of cases, maybe you brake at the same point that they brake at, and maybe it's a little bit too late. But by watching that other driver, your brain naturally just connects to what they're doing. And I find when you're in a situation like that, it's hard to think around. But when you're in a closed cockpit car and you have a little bit more between you and the driver, it's a little bit easier to just focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's something really important. You bring up the interesting point there, Justin, of you can start to fall into the mistakes of the driver in front that you're mimicking, and I hope Trevor isn't doing that right now if he really wants to make this move for third on Tim Salvatore, because again, he does have a championship to fight for, and I think 3 spots in a double points race would more than certainly guarantee him that third place spot in the points. Max Preston is going to really have to find some spots here or make up some time to these two gentlemen, or get a caution if he wants to put himself back into contention for the third or maybe even second spot in the points. But yeah, Trevor right on the back bumper at Tim Salvatore now, and he's finding time in spots where Tim is having grip problems. So I think, yeah, if Trevor falls into that same problem and has the same pitfalls that he does, he's not going to make this move. But as we come through the corkscrew, he's got a chance if he can just focus on his line. But there in the background is Rich Foligno. He's not going to lose any spots because he's one of only 2 drivers a lap down, but the 99 car heading off on the exit of the corkscrew there. And a couple guys have had troubles here with how slippery this car has been, and they did make some considerable changes to this, I think, this tire package here in the Indy Pro PM18 car on iRacing this year. They've certainly made the car a lot less grippy, a lot less downforce than a lot of other series, and it makes, really, Laguna Seca so much more of a challenge where there's almost no runoff, so having very little downforce means this thing really becomes more of a go-kart than anything else, which is not what you'd expect for a car that looks the same way the Indy Pro does. It looks like a car with a lot of downforce.
Yeah, with Laguna Seca especially, it's just so notorious for not having that runoff. And it's so easy to slip up, make a slight mistake, tap that dirt, and all of a sudden, until the next corner, until you're able to really get that dirt off your tire, your traction's limited. And you can just see in so many situations where just a tiny mistake, a tiny slip up and a tiny bit of dirt can make a complete difference.
And the biggest thing as well, something you'll notice there in the background, the newer computer and the better graphics will make it a lot easier to notice there in the past in some other series, but you'll notice there the off runoff, especially up this hill here, the sand that starts to creep off from the runoff there onto the track. It does play somewhat of an effect there in your grip. It's the same reason that over the course of a longer race, once rubber starts to be put down, you get more grip, whereas once the dirt gets on track, you actually have less. So that's the thing that can be brutal as well. And here at Laguna Seca, so much starts to sweep onto the track, so from one lap to the next, you can't always predict how much grip you're going to have into a certain corner, especially when there's a lot of dirt buildup like we're seeing here.
Yeah, I find that's one of the biggest differences between competing in a simulator and competing in real life, is just being able to adapt to how the track picks up dirt, how it picks up rubber, and how it adapts over a weekend. What most people might not understand is with a racetrack, it starts off in a certain condition at the beginning of the weekend, and by the end of the weekend, it is completely different. The points that you might be braking at the beginning of the weekend will completely shift as more grip comes down, as more cars drive on the track, and as the track's cleaned off. So you really have to always be on top of paying attention to the way that the track is changing. One lap you go through, you might be able to run a certain line, but in the next 5 laps, with taking into account your tire condition and the track condition, it might be completely different. So you really have to be aware of the condition underneath your tires.
Speaking of drivers, one driver who's coming in for a fresh set of rubber is your race leader. Mr. Logan Paxa has now entered pit road, and just behind Jack Hilliard, who's also on pit exit as we speak. But now the question becomes, Justin, did the undercut work there? We saw Andrew try it. We saw him go for that undercut, and he is flying there through turn number 1. And on pit exit, Logan's got Jack Hillier to get by. He does. Jack moves out of the way, and now Logan will get out of the pits, but Andrew is on hot tires. This battle, the situation changes entirely from just a moment ago when, well, both gentlemen back in probably lap 14 to 20 there, both guys were on equal tires. They'd started from the same point at the start of the race, and both weren't from new to the point they were at in their battle. But now, I mean, Andrews are going to be significantly older. He's going to have less grip later in the stint, but right now his tires are hotter, and he's got to capitalize on that if he wants to get by Logan and then put Logan on the offensive rather than the defensive where he's been all race.
Oh, absolutely. These two drivers are driving like they have nothing to lose, and you can really see it in these battles. I mean, the people who really get to benefit from this is us, the fans, being able to watch this awesome battle, which maybe in an alternate reality could have been for the championship, but in our reality, it's two championship level drivers, two drivers who have done a spectacular job all season. Logan, our defending champion, and clearly just such a talented young driver, and Andrew, who's really coming to take that crown. And as you can see, they're really giving it their all, and both drivers are there punch by punch, ready to show each other what they can really do.
And you talk about Justin feeling like you have nothing to lose. I mean, Logan Paxton, kind of the poster boy of that. He's already won the championship. Tonight could just be for the 10th win of his season, but past that, doesn't really have anything specific to fight for. Whereas Andrew, I mean, he talked about it in his pre-race interview, but he's only had 2 wins to this point in any of my series, whether it be Carts to Computer Season 2 or here in the Snowstorm series, which is crazy, because as you just talked about, Justin, I feel like many in the chat, and many watching at home, as well as ourselves, would agree that Andrew is a championship-level driver. But again, it's in these moments like now, in these key battles towards the end of a race, because I think we can both agree with only 15 to go, this is vital. It's going to be so important to win this battle here on hotter tires. And now Logan's are going to be almost up to temps, so now it just becomes about how can Andrew run it through the corkscrew, and how can he use these opportunities he has at his disposal. But again, it's about not making that crucial mistake there and getting into Logan, because if he does, well, the one thing he does have to lose, his top 3 spot in the championship, or at least top 2 right now, that could be out the window. So he's got a lot to think about, and I know it usually doesn't affect Andrew, but again, from an overall championship perspective, in terms of, prize paying cash and stuff like that for the top 3, that's an opportunity he could lose with a mistake here. So it's important to balance, and I'd imagine Logan is not going to want to affect that either. So you got to wonder, how is Logan going to play it if they get side by side? But right now, that question doesn't matter, because since we started talking about it here, Justin Logan is made up about a half a tenth, and you got to think, as those newer tires start to get up to temp and get to the peak condition you'd run in a qualifying lap, well, he's got the pace to just pull away. So we'll see if Andrew can keep up with him in the next couple laps.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the craziest things to see Logan do out there is just how consistent he can be at all points. With new tires and going out there and trying to get him up to temp, he's still not making any mistakes. He's driving on the edge of what the tires are able to provide him, and he's able to still be right there where he needs to be. And I find that's Logan's skill, is really just being incredibly consistent. You can see it in his real-life karting, especially his national win at the Ron Fellows karting challenge this past year in 2020. And whether it's in the simulator or in real life, Logan's definitely a driver to watch out for.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that, again, he was able to come away with 9 wins in a series that's so full of talent. I mean, besides, of course, yourself, Justin, you've had incredible pace at so many rounds throughout the season. But same with guys like Max Preston. He's been in racing a long time. Some of the more experienced guys like my dad or David Paxa. Rich Foligno has that combination of both experience and talent and pace. And Carl Dronke, who's an iRacing veteran, more so with the Skip Barber series, but is really a master of any sort of open wheel racing. We have so much talent in the series, so to take away 9 wins really just speaks to how quick Logan is in so many facets of racing. And we got a post-race celebration for him for the championship, whether he comes away with the win tonight or not. And it's looking favorable. His chances are looking good for win number 10 this season. But again, it is not over till the race is over. But for now, I want to go to the intervals here just to check on any more battles on track. And really, everybody's starting to split up about half a minute apart for everybody in the top 6 to 9 there in those spots. So we're starting to split up. Of course, this battle for the lead as well. We'll keep an eye on that as we always do. But first, let's look through the field a little bit. We haven't really spread the love in terms of attention here, because so many guys are just kind of running their laps, trying to catch up to the guy in front and are part of a bigger picture battle. But here is David Paxton, who I just talked about a moment ago. He's a guy that, in terms of his championship, is really he's been more consistent than many. I find really in that 4th to 6th spot range, David, you can almost make him a lock for that spot any particular race. He's so good at recovering if something does go wrong, and he's always able to find a way back and stay in those spots, and he's got the pace to keep up with those in the higher midfield there area, those guys that are fighting for 3rd and 4th in the championship. So he's had that pace, but again, just somehow hasn't come away with that podium. And tonight, if we get a late race caution, always the possibility that he's able to gain one of those top spots there. But I don't know, really, he's just kept it overall consistent, but hasn't been able to break into that top of the field. And Justin, I mean, to your expectations and your knowledge of racing, what sort of factors do you think it could be that could keep somebody consistently so high up in the points there, but that make it tough to break into that really the high ceiling of podium spots as well as a race win?
Well, I mean, it could really be anything, right? It's all dependent on the championship, but I know a big part of it could definitely come down to luck. At the end of the day, if you're a driver that's able to show up, be there when it matters, be able to pick up the positions that other drivers unfortunately drop, and that's a perfect way to maximize your points, and that is a very viable strategy throughout a whole championship. But when it comes down to a podium, it's really specific on the race. I mean, some races, the track could really suit you, and you, as a driver, can really enjoy the flow of the specific track, and sometimes tracks don't exactly align with your strengths and abilities. So I find in terms of a season-long championship, luck plays a huge part in it, and also consistency, just staying out of trouble, keeping your nose clean, and just being where you need to be when the time comes. But again, when it comes to one race, it all comes down to pace, and it all comes down to that specific situation. So I think for a driver like David Paxa, he has the pace, he has the luck, and as you can see throughout the season, he's just been able to capitalize where he can.
Absolutely, and a lot of those characteristics you mentioned, Justin, suit the next driver we're going to talk about here, Rich Foligno, who currently sits in 7th, the second driver only a single lap down from the leaders. And Rich has had such an amazing season at this point in so many ways. Not necessarily amazing from a finishing perspective, though he's had great finishes. He's had multiple fourths this year, and he's had some great performances everywhere, including some races where up until the final lap it looked like he could come away with a podium spot. But Rich just seems to have the worst luck of anybody I know, and really all of racing. He's just had so many unfortunate opportunities this year, but he's so easy to run with. He's so responsible about his line at the ovals. He's so consistent here at the road courses, makes very few mistakes. He's good about giving spots up to leaders if he needs to, but very rarely he finds himself in that position. But really overall, he's a consistent and he's a considerate guy of other drivers, and I think drivers really appreciate that on track, and I know I certainly do when I race him, and you got to imagine the other guys in the Snowstorm series do as well. Do you think there's anything to be said about that, Justin, that if you're somebody that is likable by the rest of the field, that you're somebody that people can trust and run in a group with, it makes you easier to run with and makes your battles more clean, but it also, in a way, do you think it comes back to help you in terms of your overall spots when it comes down to the end of a long season with lots of battles with other drivers?
I think at the end of the day, it really can't hurt. And I think specifically about Rich Foligno, I think he's really not one of the unsung heroes of the series. I know he's been here since day one, since we started the original series back at the beginning of lockdown. And I have the pleasure of knowing him and his brother John personally, and they are fantastic people. They are very passionate about the sport. Rich himself is very experienced in terms of his success at the Ron Fellows Karting Championship over the years. He's a phenomenally talented driver. He's a really good guy. And yeah, like you're saying, when I'm out there on track and I see Rich ahead of me or even behind me, I know to expect that when we do end up getting closer to each other, I know he's going to give me racing room. And it makes it a lot easier to not only give him racing room, but also just be able to have full faith when either he's passing me or I'm passing him, that we both know that as long as we give each other enough space, the pass will be fine. And I find with Rich, with his real life experience taken into consideration as well, he really does know how to safely make a pass and how to safely compete. And I really, really respect that in terms of him as a driver, but also in terms of him as a person in his personal life and so on.
I second that entirely. I unfortunately don't have the privilege of knowing Rich in real life. We've never met outside of this series, and although I'd be very happy to one day, because as you mentioned, he's a from the ground up day one guy in this series or any series I've ever hosted. So, we know how vital of a role he's played in this series since the start. He's had so many good spots. He's had podiums in previous seasons, so we know he's played a role in the past. But important to mention here, Trevor Anderson, while we were talking about Rich there, Trevor Anderson did get involved in a solo car spin, went around there on the exit to turn number 10 on the run up to the pit entry, and put the car around. The 25 car was able to get back up to speed pretty quick, but not before losing one spot. And one spot, though, I mean, of course, doesn't sound like much here to race like we have here at Laguna Seca, but it is vital when you consider who it was. Max Preston, who he's battling in the championship with for that final third spot. Max already 10 points ahead in the points. With the double points there, that's about 2 spots separating the two gentlemen. So if Trevor was able to beat him by 2 spots, which he was previously, if he was able to pass Tim Salvatore, well, now that goes up in smoke, and now that Max has made the pass on not only David Paxa, but now Trevor Anderson, that'll mean that he becomes the effective third-place provisional finisher in the championship, with Andrew currently sitting in second. Did actually make up some ground to Logan in the last couple laps, but very quickly, as you keep an eye on this battle here, well, we got to talk about Max as well, and I know that, Justin, he's a guy that you were teammates with in Carts to Computers Season 2, so you've had plenty of experience with him there, but I know you two know each other well outside of that. So, I mean, just talk about your good buddy Max Preston. Like, what is he like on track, and what is it that you have seen in your experience with him? What skill does he have that makes him such a contender in this series to finish third in the points as he made tonight?
So, unfortunately, I can't provide an unbiased opinion because, as you had mentioned, Max and I are good buddies. But really, Max is one of those drivers that you can never count out. Whether it's in real life or in Carts to Computers, he's just done such a phenomenal job, always being ready to pick up the points when people in the front either drop back, when he has unfortunate luck not able to qualify where he wants to, but when it comes to his actual pace, he always has that. He's always quick, he always knows where to be. And really, Max is one of those drivers, like Rich Foligno, where you can always trust him. You always know that he's going to make safe moves. And as a fellow driver, that's very important to me. Just understanding that if I'm going for a pass, if we're in a situation, I can trust that we're going to be able to give each other racing room.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a very similar way to some of the other guys we just talked about. And that's such a vital thing, something that cannot be understated is just that comfort and that consistency and your ability to run with other drivers. It's what I want in a series. It's what I want every driver to show in this year. And some guys have become more like that over time. And some have had incidents on occasion. I mean, everybody goes through some of those periods, but really it's that kind of driver that you can count on, as dependable, as sportsmanlike, and Max is reminiscent of all of those ideas, and it's what I really appreciate him, and makes him such a nice guy, and he's such a good interview, just like yourself, Justin. Some of you guys that have come from long racing careers, and I know he's going on to the Penny Series next year, that have done things all over the world, have such an ability to talk in interviews, and it's one that you can tell has been honed over the course of a longer racing career than just this. So it's something both of you tend to show. But one thing I want to mention as we bring our eyes back to the front battle, Andrew Bedrosian now within 4/10 of Logan Paxa, right behind him in the braking zone into the uphill turn number 5. He is getting there, and with only 8 laps to go, I mean, Justin, he's running out of time, but he is showing the pace to catch up there to your race leader.
I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, they're both giving it all. They're both giving it their all. They're both giving everything they've got. And with Andrew, you can bet that he's starting to feel frustrated here. He's starting to look at these more desperate opportunities and thinking, maybe there's an opportunity there to get by. But at the end of the day, when those laps are ticking down, for Logan, he wants the race to end right now. He wants to call it a day and cross that finish line. But for Andrew, he would wish that there's a million laps left. I mean, with every single turn that ticks down, it's one less opportunity to get up beside him and pass for that win, which you know Andrew wants, and you know that passion for that win is burning. And we'll see. There's still quite a few laps left, and anything can happen. But it's all up to Andrew just being consistent, being patient, and being ready to jump on the opportunity if he gets it.
Absolutely, but I think that opportunity is one that has had trouble presenting itself so far tonight. I mean, we've seen Justin multiple times. Andrew's gotten right up behind the back bumper of the 16 car. He's done it multiple times and has come within easily less than 3/10. But again, it's when he gets that opportunity, gets right behind him, he just can't quite make it over the hump and get past the car in front. And so often, I think that's a problem you can have in these series at road courses where you have very minimal downforce, but a lot of air taken off the front wing by dirty air in these moments. So you can get as close as you want, but it's more than just that ability on an individual lap. It's more than just that race pace. It's also about the racecraft, and that's something that I think applies to both these two gentlemen. And as we see Caleb Campbell up front, we'll see if he moves out of the way as we come downhill through turn number 9 and 10. He gets out of the way for Logan. I believe he will as well for Andrew through turn number 10, and he will get to the outside, and the lead battle will continue. But yeah, I mean, Justin, racecraft, maybe a word that isn't very linear common sense to most people who watch races of this sort, but I'll throw it to you, Justin, to explain that. What is the difference between just race pace and quick lap times and actual racecraft to make a move on somebody?
So when it comes down to race pace, that's when we're talking about the driver's overall speed. So their ability to run the same lap or similar lap every single lap and being able to have that speed where they can compete at the front of the pack. But you're right, racecraft is a lot harder to explain. A good way to picture it, and maybe this is not the exact right definition for it, but a good way to picture racecraft is essentially a driver's ability not only to predict other drivers' actions in front of them, but also to understand the actions of themselves and understand how they can safely make passes, how they can safely compete without causing accidents, without making accidental contact and stuff like that. And the real thing that happens both in real life and in the simulator world is with racecraft, it comes with experience. Drivers who have years and years of experience in racing will have that racecraft developed and will be constantly, I say developed, it's something that a driver constantly has to work on. But with drivers of this caliber, racecraft comes through experience, and with real life experience like Logan Paxa has, and they make contact.
Yeah, I was going to say Andrew and Rich there further back in the field. We talked about earlier there how reliable Rich is, a guy that you can never really get into, and that it's almost never that you see him get involved in an incident with another driver, that especially one that's on the lead lap. So we'll have to go back and show a quick replay of what happened there. Andrew, though, still within half a second of Logan, so despite that incident, Andrew got up to speed pretty quick and was relatively unaffected by it. But here is the battle, the rundown into turn number 11. Rich really pushed Andrew to the limits there on the inside, and Andrew just sends him around there, gets into the back bumper. I'm thinking, Justin, I don't know if you can see the replay there, I'm thinking that's got to be a situation of retaliation of some sort, because, Rich really held him in there on the inside, wasn't giving him any room, and I don't know. How would you look at that on first viewing, Justin? Because I really don't know how to describe that.
Well, I think that's a very complex situation, as is a lot of this, a lot of the situations that we see in racing. I'm just looking back at it myself just to try to better understand. I think one thing in mind is just how complex and how difficult it is to always see the drivers that are around you. And in a situation like this, Rich Foligno, like we were talking before, is a driver that's generally quite good with being able to predict when to go and when it's safe time to make the passes. And I feel like in this situation, there must have just been some kind of confusion. I did, and I know you guys can't see this at home, but I did see on my display that there was a message that came out from Andrew to Rich Foligno midway through that battle, or midway through that circumstance. So I'm not sure what the drivers said between each other, but that's a very complex situation that I think we're going to have to analyze after the race.
And it's one that could have a huge effect here, Justin, because again, we've seen since Andrew got involved in that incident there, not only was he behind the lap car of Marshall Crocker that Logan had already made it past, but now he's lost 4 seconds to the 16 car as a result of the confusion. I said originally that there was no long-term time loss as a result of that confusion, but there was. He has lost a significant amount of time. He's making up some time, but again, he's really got to push here in these final 4 laps if he wants to catch Logan. And then I don't know about you, Justin, but if there's any guy in the series I don't want to try to make up that much time on in only 4 laps, it is your series champion, Logan Paxa.
Oh, absolutely. And now this gives us an opportunity to take a break from the action and discuss the drivers more in depth. But one thing about Logan Paxa, we see that he's a talented driver out here on the circuit. But one thing that I don't know if everybody is aware of is he's also a very talented graphic designer. Logan was actually the one responsible for the paint scheme that he's running. He designed it himself, he completely made it himself. And as another driver who has attempted to make a paint scheme, they are quite complex. So I'm very impressed with the work that Logan has been able to do, not only on the track, but now off the track as well.
For sure, it's something that should definitely be mentioned because, the same as you, Justin, I've tried in the past to figure out the software necessary to make my own paint schemes, and it just does not work. At least not the way I do it. Something in my head just... I do the graphics for this series, which generally speaking use templates I design when I have more time. I am not a graphic designer by nature whatsoever. Those of you that have seen our old Cars Computers graphics, not to suggest they're way better than the ones now, but I certainly do not have talents in that regard. Though in the future, hopefully for the future, I will be getting one of my broadcast compatriots from a series I do on Wednesdays, who is a broadcast or graphic designer by trade. He'll be hopefully doing the graphics for our future series. That way things will look even more polished, like his very great series he puts together on Wednesdays. But for now, Yeah, I mean, Logan, the fact that he's such a multifaceted, multi-talented guy, that he can do a great-looking paint scheme that reps the local track here in Hamilton, one that both you and I, Justin, have had experience with and for many years. But yeah, he's just all around, and I don't know how he finds the time to do everything and do everything so successfully, but he's coming up to the line here for 2 laps to go, not much time left, and with Andrew's difficulties, he is looking comfortable up there. But one thing I do want to mention, with only 2 laps to go, I guess 3 for these two gentlemen, one important storyline before the end of this race, Justin, is that we'll put up the lap times now, but Trevor Anderson is catching Max Preston. He was a little bit slower that last time by, but he made up a combined 2.5 seconds there in 3 laps from 44 to 46. So that 4-second gap, I don't think it's a guarantee, and these two gentlemen are racing each other in the points. They're battling it out for the 3rd spot if Andrew can hold on to 2nd. But the only problem here is, well, Trevor needs 2 spots if he wants to take over 3rd, and well, Tim Salvatore up there in the 91 car has looked locked down there in 3rd since he had that battle with Trevor Anderson that ended with Trevor's spin. This has been over, really. Tim has just been taken off, and he's going to come home, hopefully, if he can keep it on track for his 3rd podium of the season, and it is well-deserved. But yeah, now down to 3 seconds. Justin, with only 2 laps to go, with that sort of momentum, do you think it suggests maybe a grip loss problem for your good buddy Max Preston, or what sort of thing do you think could be affecting somebody's pace this late in an event?
Well, I mean, it really could be anything at this late in the event. Obviously, with the drivers getting closer to the end, they're going to be quite low on fuel, which changes the weight distribution of the car. It makes it a little bit more tail-happy going through some of the corners. But at the same time, like you said, the tires can play a huge factor. Going towards the end of the race, these tires start to really give up, and if you're not careful, they're very happy to throw you right off the track. So it could be a situation just of Max Preston wanting to conserve what little tire wear he has left, just hoping to conserve it for the rest of the race and just bring it all home in one piece.
Well, speaking of bringing it home in one piece, 1 lap to go, the final white flag of the 2020/2021 Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season. And how fitting it is that series champion Logan Paxa will take that flag, going for 10th win of the season, something he hasn't done since the first series I ever put on, the season 1 of the Carts to Computers Racing Series. He did it back then with far fewer drivers, a far more variant calendar, but now we come here in only the Indy Pro Car, allowing guys to get more and more time to practice. You'd think that you'd get more and more practice as somebody with maybe less time in the sim. You'd get better and better and be able to challenge guys like Logan, but he has held firm. He has won every race he's needed to, including ovals, which were kind of his weakness there in previous seasons, but he's figured it out. He's more of an all-rounder than ever, and as he comes through the final couple of turns, how fitting it is that our champion will be crowned our final race winner here at Laguna Seca through turn 10. Only 1 more turn to go. Andrew Bedrosian did his best to give him a fight tonight, but unfortunately, with a little bit of issue there for Andrew, with lap traffic, it is all over. Through the final turn for the final time, Logan Paxa, win number 10 on the season. Laguna Seca wins in the 15th and final round of the the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series here at Laguna Seca. He takes away win number 10 this year. Andrew Bedrosian with top 5 and podium. Well, top 5 number 11. I think podium number 8 or 9. He has had an incredible year, but unfortunately, it'll be second in the points for him tonight. But hey, he locks up that second place spot, goes home with 50 Canadian dollars, and hey, he might even get the least incident points bonus as well. So there's 10 more for him. Andrew Bedrosian, a very good night for him, and he will round off tonight's event. But Tim Salvatore through the final couple corners himself. He's already got 2 podiums on the season, has been almost untouchable tonight, and he will come home with podium number 3 one more time through turn number 11 for the 91 car. Great race tonight for Tim Salvatore through the final corner for him, and he will bring it home. Same with David Paxa up ahead, who comes home 6th. Felino will officially finish 7th. 8th for Digner, 10th for Campbell, 9th for Dronke, 11th for Crocker. And we got spinners all over the place doing victory donuts. Cones are in the air, but Tim Salvatore, congratulations on 3rd place. What a weird sight you got to think for the 91 car of Tim Salvatore right now. Look at all the chaos going on in front of him. But Max Preston comes to the line to finish up his race, and Trevor is not too far behind. The 2 gentlemen battling for 3rd in the championship. Well, that battle is over. Congratulations to Max Preston. Officially takes home the 3rd spot tonight. And Trevor Anderson, just behind him, comes home 5th.
Yeah, no, I think that was a fantastic race, and I think being able to see that battle between Logan and Andrew, obviously it didn't end the way we wanted it to. We weren't able to see the battle continue the last couple laps, but just being able to see them fight out there, seeing them have an equal pace and be able to go toe-to-toe with each other, that just is exactly what you want to see in a final round. Exactly. And I think it also should not go without saying that there's the quote, behind every man, there's a greener woman. And I think Heather if she's looking in the comments, I know she is, but she's always there giving the support to every driver in the series, giving support to obviously both her son and her husband who are now competing. And I think absolutely she deserves a massive, massive shout out. Not only producing our series champion, but also being able to bring the passion to motorsports that so many of us feel.
Yeah, great point there, Justin. Yeah, the perhaps in terms of all that she's done for Logan, maybe even more faceted or more multifaceted than her son is in racing. It's such an incredible family as well, both of them and David Paxton. Thank you all for all the time you spent in this series. And there is Logan. He's going to burn that car out of fuel, right as they said that he stops. But now we're going the other way. So victory donuts from drivers all over the field. David Pax is sitting up there. Sorry, that's Tanner Dignard sitting up there smoking the car in the background. Trevor Anderson is somewhere on track. He's still doing donuts. Logan Paxa, Jack Hillier, Caleb Campbell, everybody here. And Caleb, another fan favorite. It's so awesome to see that he had a good year. And we got that podium that he was looking for there at Iowa. But since then, he's been just as exciting. And wow, what a sight to finish off the season here. It's been an incredible calendar season here. And I can't wait to make things bigger and better going forward for all these drivers. I hope we can have everybody come back, including yourself, Justin, because since you made your way back into the series, you missed, I think, the first 2 rounds, but since then, you've been awesome to have. You've been making your way through the points, and I'm really sorry to see that tonight didn't end the way you would have liked. VR issues have played issues all year for both yourself and Max, but hopefully going forward, we can get you here full-time back for what I'm temporarily going to call the Heatwave Open Wheel Racing Series, but we'll see in the future what that turns out to be. But I hope when we do come there in the summer or after the karting season, we'll have you there, because if you're anything as good through an entire race season as you are in the commentary booth, you're going to have a great year. And just as I say that, it's been a pleasure to have you tonight, Justin. Thank you so much. And I wish I could have known in advance, and I would have made you a commentator graphic just like mine, but well, we'll figure it out in the future. But Justin, it's always a pleasure to have you here. You're more than welcome to stay for the interviews, but it's up to you, man. If you want to say anything to the people at home, and you just thanked Heather and the rest of Logan's family. But if you got anybody at home you want to thank, I know you got plenty of people out there that surely you're going to be excited to see in the broadcast booth. I'll give you the same opportunity as those in the interviews.
Well, I mean, first of all, I just want to say a huge thanks on behalf of the drivers to you, Marshall, you and Vince as well, our race director. You guys have been able to provide this amazing opportunity for us to compete and continue sharing our passion during the cold winter months in Canada. And I'm very excited to continue racing with you I'm very excited to continue in whichever series that you go on to next. And at the end of the day, all of us drivers, we really owe you guys a huge thank you and a huge thank you to Vince as well, to be able to provide support on the technical side in terms of the rules and in terms of the racing situation. So it's very nice to have both of you guys support us and be able to provide the series. And I think the biggest thank you just goes to you guys, not only from me, but like I said, from the rest of the drivers on the field.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Justin. It's anytime any of you guys give me thanks for putting the series together, I got to say the same thing. It's so much of a symbiotic relationship. The amount of joy I get from putting these races together week by week and seeing all you guys at home, as anyone as I am, and whenever I get guys like Jack or yourself up here in the booth and making the experience that much more fun, it's so much more to me than just an experience I do every Friday. It's been so awesome to put everything together, and yeah, absolutely. The second shout out there, Vince, our race director. I'm going to mention him again at the end before we go off the air, but he plays such a large role there in the background, and Vince is really, I feel bad at times because he does everything he can with the rules I have in place. We had some confusions there earlier in the season at Iowa, but he handled it well. He always gives me plenty of pages of notes there after the race about anything to look over, anything to consider a penalty for, and he just does so much there in the background that often goes unthanked, unfortunately. So I just want to give a massive thank you to Vince Ball, our race director. He's done it all season. He thought about only doing it part-time for 2 races, and in the end he did a whole 15 race calendar. So he plays as big of a part in this series as anybody else. And unfortunately, the one thing I don't have in tonight's race is I get post credits. So for going forward, that's something I want to get a graphic for that I can change through the race, because there's so many guys I got to thank, as well as Jack Hillier, who was in the race earlier, stopped by there pre-race to do an interview on the warm-up lap. But just Justin, thank you so much, man. That was an absolute pleasure, and I wish I'd caught your comment there before, because with how much fun that was, I would have taken even just 7 or 8 more minutes of it. But thank you so much, man. I hope again you're more than welcome to stick around for the interviews post-race if you want, but I'm just going to go over the top 3 as usual. But yeah, just thank you so much, man. I really hope that we can get your participation in a future series, if it is indeed called the Heatwave Series. And man, the pace you've showed this year, I think we could be seeing you not only in the broadcast booth plenty throughout the year, but maybe even in these top 3 spots we're about to hand out tonight. So great job tonight, Justin. Have a great rest of your year, man. And I hope we can talk to you soon, because once the karting track opens up, maybe I can see you out there in Hamilton sometime.
Thank you, Marshall. Although I love hopping in the commentary booth with you, and I love being able to add my voice to this amazing production that you're putting together, I definitely prefer racing over commentating. And if I'm able to make sure I'm in this seat more often, if I'm able to limit technical difficulties like I experienced today, then hopefully you'll see me at all rounds next series. I know at the beginning of this series, for those who don't know, I unfortunately broke my wrist in a race accident in September, and this series really helped provide a sort of physiotherapy for me, just getting back into those motions, getting back into that racing mindset. So this series has provided me so much, and I'm very excited to join in on whichever series comes next. So thank you very much again, Marshall, and I'll leave the interviews to you. I know you have a very, very tight handle on things, so I'll let you handle it. But thank you again, and thank you to everybody who is watching, and thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Justin. Have a great rest of your night, man. Again, I got to talk to you in a couple weeks. We got a race maybe at Fontana a couple Fridays from now, so I hope I see you there. But if not, I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. So thank you again, Justin. It's been an absolute pleasure tonight, and I'm sure all the people at home will agree about that with me as well.
Thank you very much. Good night, Marshall, and good night, everybody at home. I hope you guys enjoyed my commentary, and I look forward to competing in the future.
Awesome. See you, Justin.
Thank you. See you, Marshall.
And with that, that'll round off your 15th round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series at Laguna Seca. Man, again, I really wish Justin had been able to make it all the way through there. I know the guys with VR can have some really bad luck from time to time, but man, what I would have given to have that for the full season. Justin, it's such a pleasure to talk to, and he's not only such a great interview, but he's such a great co-host. And he co-hosted a race with me earlier on, either this season or last season. I think at the Charlotte Oval last season. He did a race with me, but man, the guy just has a talent for this sort of thing. And, well, if racing doesn't ever work out, which I really hope it does for him, well, I think he's got a backup plan, most certainly. But there are your final results here in the final round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series for 2021 and 2020 here at Laguna Seca. There are your top 13. Logan Paxa takes his 10th win of the season in commanding fashion. Once Andrew got involved in some lap traffic chaos there a little bit earlier on in the race, it was all his race to the finish there, and Logan did everything he had to, an absolutely flawless performance as always, and he does come away with his 10th win of the season. We'll talk to him in a moment and award him with the series championship. But after that, second in the race, second in the final points, Andrew Bedrosian, man. I mean, it goes without saying that he was quick all year. I mean, he led the series in poles. He had 7. He'll still take the poles championship, you could argue, or I guess the IndyCar calls it the pole award at the end of the season. There's a sponsor, but of course we don't have a title sponsor. But yeah, he took home that award, and 7 poles for him, 6 for Logan. The two guys just dominated qualifying all season. But Andrew, man, he had that pace all year, and unfortunately, just some troubles like that, some bad luck like he had tonight. It's been the difference between Logan and himself in the overall points. But he has just done everything he could, and Andrew Bedrosian deserves a massive, round of applause virtually. But I think if I clapped into my mic, we'd have some more audio problems than just Justin's mic earlier. So we're gonna abstain from that for now. But man, Andrew Bedrosian, just absolute props, man. We'll talk to him in the broadcast booth in just a moment, but he comes home with the second place spot in tonight's race. Tim Salvatore will come home 3rd podium of the season. An absolute pleasure to see, because Tim he's had a rough season in parts as well. I mean, talk about his Iowa Speedway race where he became one of the only other pole winners of the season. And unfortunately, as a result of a rules loophole, he was unfortunately put out of the event early. But he's recovered since, taking away 2 more podiums. And a great year for Tim Salvatore. Can't wait to talk to him in just a moment. But Max Preston officially comes home 3rd in the series points, just ahead of Trevor Anderson. They had a great, maybe not a battle on track, but their lap times there were vital at the end. They could have very well had a battle to, cap off their top 3 on the season. So they had quite the finish there for the both of them. But they finished 4th and 5th respectively. Both gentlemen absolutely deserve everything they've had this season in terms of podiums and all sorts of success, and Max's win earlier this season at Mosport. So they've had an incredible year, and I wish the both of them the best of luck, and not just a future series of mine if they choose to come back, but also just everything they've done in their real-life racing careers and will continue to do, because Max is going on to a NASCAR Penny Series ride this coming year. At least I hope so with COVID. So, man, he deserves everything he's got, and he takes home 3rd in the championship and $25 Canadian for his troubles, and Trevor Anderson officially comes home in 4th. After that, though, David Pax, a great race for him. We were talking about him earlier with when we talked about him and Rich Foligno, who finished 6th and 7th respectively. But Justin and I were talking about them both just such responsible drivers on track. both pure sportsmen. David for trying to help some of the younger drivers out behind the scenes. It's another thing that goes unspoken, but in practice, he is so helpful to help out some of the younger guys, get them up to speed, get them more comfortable with the series, and he's just so awesome about stuff like that I can't always get the opportunity to do, unfortunately. But so the fact that behind the scenes he can do that sort of thing and make some guys feel more comfortable in the series that are a little bit younger and less experienced in motorsports is so important. So the fact that he comes away with the 6th tonight is very well deserved. Rich Foligno, man, just again, what an absolute sportsman in every way. He's so polished in his driving, he's so competitive, but he's also so clean. He won last night's practice race, which I really hope is a great way to round off his season. But man, he's come so close to a podium so many times this year, the most unlucky guy in this series, bar none, in this calendar year. So I hope in the future his luck works out a little bit better for him, and I can't wait to see him in the future. Maybe not just get one of those podiums, but man, he's one of those guys on track for a win. I know it. So best of luck to him in the future. I hope Rich has a great rest of his year. And Tanner Dinger comes home in 8th. Tanner, again, one of those guys so close to a podium all season, but he has just been on fire at the ovals. I think that's really his bread and butter in a lot of ways, but at the road courses too. He was 3rd in practice today. Like, we know he has pace. So another guy, he's a rookie this season, and I've been so happy to have him. I really hope he comes back next year, because man, just thinking about what he would do in this series in a whole season again, with how much quicker he's been and how much more experience he's got since the beginning of the calendar, I can't even imagine. So great job to Tanner Digner tonight. He comes home 8th. Carl Dronke, your race winner at the only other double points race of the season in Indianapolis. I've raced against him before this series even started. We knew each other back from a series I hosted in a Skip Barber car, and he is one of the Skip Barber champions of iRacing. He has the highest I rating of anybody in the room, which, for those of you that don't know, is basically an iRating ranking system, kind of a currency based on how many race wins you have. And he has just won so many on the Skip Barber side of things, holds many world records, or many lap records, I should say, in the Skip Barber side of things. So he took that oval or that road course open wheel knowledge over here and ran almost every lap of our calendar. And in the end, I think he's going to come home 6th or 7th, maybe even 5th in points. So Carl, man, just absolute props to yourself. And again, coming away with the 9th place spot tonight, but that wasn't indicative of this whole season. He just had such a great year. So again, thank you so much to Carl Dronke for coming out tonight. Caleb Campbell there in the number 10 spot rounds off your top 10 in tonight's finale. And man, Caleb Campbell, he is one of the biggest turnouts here in the chat. So I want to give a very quick thank you to those of you in the YouTube chat who support Caleb Campbell, because man, I appreciate it so much. And it's so great to see him get so many peers in here and supporting him. And man, I know he appreciates it, and I appreciate it just as much. It's so great to see, and he deserves it. He's such a nice guy. Somebody, again, that's gotten so good throughout the season at just keeping it consistent. He's had so much progression. Another guy I'm really excited to see what he does going forward. Got that podium that was so key at Iowa. That was probably one of the feel-good moments of the season, and I know there was a lot riding on it for him in his personal life, so I was really glad to see that work out for him. But man, Caleb Campbell, just absolute props to him as well, and a great way to cap off his season to get a top 10 performance. My father, Marshall Crocker Sr. there in the 15 car, man, another guy that had some unfortunate luck and terrible luck from time to time. I mean, the most notable example at Indianapolis, he could have very well been the winner of that double points race, but was taken out in a wreck in the very final corner of that race, and well, unfortunately fell just short of his podium, his first podium of the season as a result. But he just comes out to every race. Behind the scenes as well, he supported me so much. I wouldn't have the beautiful graphics, the great production technically that I have at this point in the year without him. And he's been so helpful in that regard for such a long time. And I'm so thankful for him from both the driver's perspective and outside. So he does the Marshall Crocker name that we both share proud. And well, even if he comes away with an 11th spot tonight, 4 laps down, he had a much better season than that would indicate. I know he put so much time into this series. So thank you so much to my dad, and congratulations to him. And well, I'm sure going forward, he's a guy that if he has the time and in the will to come back, I'm sure he can make some waves there in the Heatwave series. And hey, I'm hoping to talk to him in the booth not too long from now with his first podium. But then after that, Jack Hillier, a guy we talked to before the race in the pre-race. He had his in-car interview, and man, he co-commentated 2 races this season. And another guy that has looked more comfortable than ever here the longer he's been in this series. So I give Jack Hillier absolute props. We're going to work together on the next series schedule. I'm trying to get some more multiple opinions here when I put together the schedule for a future series, and he's definitely going to be a part of that. So I'm sure I'll be talking to him very soon. But just a massive thank you to him again for all he's done in the commentary booth. And speaking of the commentary booth, Justin Lewick tonight had VR issues from the very start, was unable to get past lap 1, but I think we can all agree at home that he is just so much fun to have on commentary. Great job for him tonight from both a racing perspective and otherwise. He'll come home tonight 13th, but that does not tell the entire story. Great job to Justin all season, and he came home with 2 podiums at the end of the year. So I'm sure he'll be happy with that. And Joshua Jablonski, we'll give a shout out to him as well. Not an official racing a member of this series, but he is Caleb Campbell's full-time commentator, and I know the two of them, work together through the week in practice, and Joshua was very helpful with trying to get Caleb up to speed, which would explain how much improvement he's had over the year. Caleb is such an improved driver from what he was at the beginning of the season. Not that he wasn't good, but he has just found a new pace the longer we've gone on the calendar, and Joshua is so much part of my thanks for that. So that will round off post-race, and now we can get ready for your 3 interviews in tonight's event to round off this season. First interview of the night, Mr. Tim Salvatore. He already had 2 podiums to this point in the year, 8 top 5s, and in a double points finale, he makes it count and comes home in 3rd. Let's pull him into the booth. Hey, Tim, it's Marshall Crocker in the booth. You got me? That is going very well, and I mean, Tim, you picked the best night to do it, the series finale, and you come away with a podium, man. Congratulations. It was just a pleasure to watch you out there, because you're one of those guys in the series that looks so comfortable in the car, and at a track like Laguna with how much oversteer we had in some parts with the new tire package, that was easier said than done. So just what made you so comfortable tonight? Did you get the practice you felt like you needed? Or are you getting a better handle on this car in the Indy Pro as the year's gone on? Just, you seem comfortable tonight. What was it there happening on inside your head that made you so easily to will yourself to a 3rd place spot in the finale?
Honestly, I don't know, Marshall. I didn't get nearly enough practice. I hopped on for practice about 45 minutes before the qualifying tonight, so I just kind of got quicker and quicker as the night went on, more comfortable and more comfortable. I mean, Laguna Seca is a pretty classic track, so everyone knows it. I mean, the corkscrew is such a tough corner, but a lot of fun. I mean, heck, it was a lot of fun racing tonight with, I mean, first Max and then Trevor. Would have been nice to kind of keep that going to the end, but I mean, at the same time, I kind of needed that mental break because Trevor was pushing so hard. He was pushing me everywhere. He was really, really quick, and it took a lot of concentration to kind of keep the wheels on the car and keep the wheels on the black stuff there.
Yeah, speaking of that battle there with Trevor, that was just so much fun to watch. And here at Laguna, you spent most of the time there, actually all of the time there, defending up front. And here at Laguna, it can be so hard to find good passing opportunities in a car with fairly little downforce. It's just with the dirty air, it can be so hard from a driver's perspective trying to pass another driver. So you were defending almost flawlessly there for such a long period of time till Trevor made that one mistake. What was it? Were you taking into account the dirty air when you were trying to defend from Trevor? And where was it you think you were finding those perfect spots that maybe Trevor was making little mistakes?
Yeah, absolutely. These cars are so hard to pass in, and this track itself, it's so the corners are so quick. There's not really any slow corners other than the final corner there, and the corkscrew. And I mean, to me, the corkscrew is not even a passing opportunity. So I wasn't even really paying attention when he was behind me and going into the corkscrew. But I kind of park it on the apex there, and then control when I get to accelerate, and therefore control when he gets to accelerate. And it really helps the defending when I get to control when we go off the corner. So that's kind of my defense strategy. And then just making sure that going into turn 1 and 2 that I've got that inside covered off. So if he wants to do it, he can do it around the outside, but it's going to be tough. Then really the rest of the corners there's not a whole lot of braking, and they're high speed corners. So any attempted moves there are probably pretty dangerous. And I know Trevor's a really good racer. He's really clean. So I kind of figured he wouldn't try them there because he's going to go for that high percentage move, and they're just any high percentage moves. I just tried to cover off on the inside and park it on the apex and go.
When it worked in the end, you held them off for the better part of 20 laps. Like, you guys had such a great battle there. That was really reminiscent of Andrew and Logan stuff they've had all season. So the fact that you guys could channel that towards the end just shows how good you guys really are in the points and really as drivers and generally speaking. But speaking of the big picture, I mean, Tim, we come to the end of the Snowstorm Racing Series tonight, and you were a series rookie this year. You made your debut in our first round at Roval, and since then you've made it to, I think, almost every race of the calendar. Just from the start till now, as a driver, I've seen you improve in so many ways. You look more consistent and more dangerous week after week as somebody to compete for podiums. As a result of that long time you've spent in both this car and on iRacing getting practice and running in this series, do you feel more comfortable with both the sim, the car, and just generally in this league atmosphere than ever. And just talk about your change as a driver from race 1 to race 15 tonight at Laguna.
Yeah, it was definitely a long season, and there was definitely lots of learning, lots of ups and downs. Would have really liked some more stronger results kind of in the middle of the season, and some DNFs there that you'd like to have back. So yeah, it's it's the first season of the series. It was definitely a learning experience. Definitely getting a lot more comfortable in the car, and also kind of learning the drivers around you. So that was a big thing as well. So yeah, I'll take that going forward and kind of take that into the future, and hopefully I can start fighting for some wins and top threes in the championship, as opposed to that third place, or if I get lucky, get that second place if Logan or Andrew have an issue.
Oh, you've come so close so many times, and you've shown more improvement than almost anybody else in the series. So there's absolutely guaranteed invitation to you for whatever happens to be in the future. Again, I keep throwing the name Heatwave Open Wheel Racing Series around, but maybe that's just because it works as a nice antithesis to this one. But man, it's been so much fun to have you all season, Tim. And again, to finish it off with the podium with the season you've had. I know you talked about the troubles there, the ones at Iowa that were absolutely my fault from a rules perspective. That was a slip up on my end, but you've recovered well since then, and you made your rest of the season count. So I just give you total props. You deserve more than just an opportunity to thank people at home. You deserve my thanks. So you absolutely have that. Thank you, Tim, for the entire season, for coming out to practices on Mondays and Thursdays, but also for always being consistent and really easy to work with from a race perspective. But hey, as we always do in the interviews, you've earned it tonight. This is your opportunity to thank anybody at home, talk about any sponsors, and just whatever you feel before we round off tonight's final broadcast of the year.
Appreciate it, Marshall, and thank you for putting a really good fun series on. Thanks to Vince for dealing with all of our every racer is always complaining that it's somebody else's fault, definitely myself included. Mine might be right at the top of that list. So thanks to Vince for putting up with our complaints in the broadcast, and sorry, not on the broadcast, in the race and in the chat after. So much appreciated, and yeah, thanks again for putting the series on, and hopefully see you in a future one.
Absolutely. I hope to see you going forward, and I hope you have a great rest of your 2021, Tim, with your other racing endeavors. Hopefully with the karting season starting up, let's hope, knock on wood, sometime early in May. But whenever it may be, I just wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, and I hope we see you with whatever is in the future. I hope we see you back on the Drivers Good sometime very soon.
Thanks, Marshall. You too. We'll see you at the track.
Awesome. See you then. Awesome. And that'll round off your first interview of the night with Mr. Tim Salvatore, a guy who, again, just a great season for him, so much, and so many great opportunities. Again, third podium of the year. I think that's going to be fourth among people. I think Max has 5 now. Trevor might have 3 as well. So I think he may have tied Trevor for podiums at 4th, or well, at 3 in 4th. So it just, as a rookie this year, I think he's the highest finishing rookie. No, Trevor would be the highest finishing rookie. So he's second highest finishing rookie in this season, but man, Tim just showed so much pace all year. So absolutely congratulations to Tim, and whoever comes out to the broadcast to support him. It means, again, more than just it means more to just him, but it also means something to me. So that's what I was trying to say. But now I'm getting frazzled, and it's because we've been here a while, but we still got plenty to go over. Well, 2 more interviews to do before we round off the season. First one being with Andrew Bedrosian, who comes home tonight in second. Let's pull him in the booth. Hey, Andrew, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, first of all, Andrew, I mean, I'm really sorry to see how things ended up there for you at the end. We talked to you pre-race. You sounded so confident. You had the confidence on track all throughout the race. You looked comfortable. You looked untouchable. But that unfortunate issue there with lap traffic, it gave you some issue. And generally speaking, just kind of talk about your race there from the start. How easy was it to keep up with Logan with dirty air being such a problem? And then once you had those issues there towards the end, what was the feeling as you saw that Logan start to get further and further away?
I mean, it wasn't too bad, like, with the dirty air. Like, it was actually kind of nice just to be behind Logan, because I didn't really feel any pressure to move any faster. I was just waiting for him to make a mistake. I saw him drop a wheel, especially after his pit stop. He looked a little gun-shy after he dropped a wheel off going up to towards the corkscrew. But yeah, it wasn't too bad in dirty air. But yeah, I had Michael up in the pit stand helping me and updating me on who was faster each lap. So yeah, each time I heard more positive lap time that I was faster, it just gives me a lot more confidence in my car.
Yeah, and you had many faster lap times tonight. It wasn't like a cut and dry battle by any means. You guys were back and forth all race tonight. And Laguna Seca, I mean, it's a track that you know from last year. You remember that iconic finish with you and Max Preston, one of the greatest finishes we've ever had there. Man, I mean, it's a shame that, again, you come home second. You weren't quite able to revenge that. But what did you learn from last season? We ran that back in the IndyCar days when you used to use the R18. Coming there again with the Indy Pro car with a lot less downforce can be almost trickier to drive in certain ways. How would you compare last year's Laguna race to this year's? And did you pick up anything from last year's race you tried to carry into tonight's finale?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing I did pick up was don't lose it in the last corner on the last lap.
Yes.
But yeah. But yeah, like with this, I mean, it was a very, very common race line. Didn't really feel anything too different. I mean, most people don't notice it, but there are like tiny red, what we call turtles or turtle shells at the apexes, and it's sort of like a gimme kind of move at the track, and it just points out the apex and what you got to aim for, and it just basically puts a bullseye on every turn. And yeah, like this is one of the tracks that it's not something you can really get into a rhythm on. It's just muscle memory, especially going through the corkscrew, and not knowing how early, how late to turn down to the right, because you may tip a wheel off into the sands. So yeah, it's just one of those tracks that's really just muscle memory.
Well, I got to ask the big question here, Andrew. With the season coming to an end, you officially take home second in the championship. Logan did everything he could tonight to make his championship worth it, getting the win in the finale. But you come home second. Very deserved, Andrew. You've had such an incredible year. And again, you take home the pole award. Most poles this season, even with Logan taking it tonight. You've had so much pure race pace, and your racecraft is like better and better every week throughout the entire season. So as the season comes to an end, you make your first full appearance in an entire season, because you missed a couple races at the start, I think, of Karting Computer Season 2. Maybe I'm wrong, but from that series... Yeah, I think you were actually you were there for the full one. You made the last race of Season 1. But, you know, doing that full season Karting Computers, then coming over here, running only the one car, when you take the variation in cars out of the equation, you can really focus on getting used to the Indy Pro. Did that suit your taste this season better? And just as a whole, how would you round off your second full season, taking home second for the second year in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I like pretty much both styles of either switching a car a couple times every month, because like last year, like I was like the jack of all trades. I could be fast wherever I needed or wherever we went. So it's really not a problem for me to adjust myself to any kind of car. But yeah, like this car was pretty amazing to drive. It's quick, just great for battles. But yeah, like it's pretty similar enough to the IR18, but still a great entry level car, basic car for a lot of the guys or newcomers to the series.
Absolutely, but you most certainly would not have been in the newcomer status this year, Andrew. You were great last year. You talked about being the jack of all trades, but I think this year, going to the one car, to the much more linear series style without all the different variation. I mean, you looked unstoppable tonight. You take away a top 5 number 10, you make it an even 10 on the year, and it's just been an incredible year. So not just for tonight's race that you deserve it, but for the entire calendar year, and for coming out to every practice, for being so competitive, for having a great battle with me last night for my birthday. That was so much fun there, man. And just overall, you deserve, in so many facets, the opportunity to say thank you not only to those at home, but to talk about some sponsors. And you deserve all the time in the world there for this season. But we'll leave it to this. So as always, Andrew, this is your time here in the interview.
Yeah, I just want to thank the Bedford School, Stainless Realtors, and JP West Photo for being my sponsors this season. It's been really great having them on board for a second season in a row. So I want to thank them. I want to thank my whole family for watching this season. It's been a really great season, really fun. A lot of great guys But yeah, I mean, congrats to Logan for winning the championship. He did a great job, great battle. So yeah, and I really want to thank you for putting the series together. It's been a lot of fun to compete against these guys and just to showcase everybody's skills.
Oh, and there's plenty of skills to showcase, and many of them were your own, Andrew. Thank you so much for the kind words, man. And I really hope, I know that if you have the time, you'll most certainly be out there. I hope for the Heatwave series, is what I'm calling it for now in the future, man. Whatever comes next, it'll be so awesome to have you. And hey, you can get started from a full, fresh new season and try to take your first championship here and move up only one spot there in the final points to take home your first title. And I look forward to seeing you go for it, man.
All right, thank you, Marshall.
Awesome, thank you, Andrew. There we go. With that, we will round off your second interview of the night with second place in the championship and second place in tonight's race, Mr. Andrew Bedrosian. But for the final interview of the night, there's only one more driver to go to, Mr. Logan Paxa, your series champion. I thought that graphic looked way better on the cutting board, but that's what I was able to get out there. So there are Logan's final stats. There is your season champion. And we got to bring into the booth for the final time this year to round off the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series. It's Season 1 champion, Mr. Logan Paxa. Hey, Logan, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
I got you.
Awesome. Well, Logan, I said it to you, man. I said both 10 wins, and you might as well do it in style, and you did tonight. You came home with the 10th win of the season. You win in your finale, and you take home the series championship just from start to finish. I mean, we knew you were going to be quick. We'd seen you in the first 2 years of the Carts and Computers Racing Series. You won Season 1. You came one round away from Season 2. And then in Season 3, you just seemed to kick it into a whole new gear. We ran one car all season, which is something we've never done here in a series I've put together. But as well, we seem to run so many good road courses. We seem to run so many tracks from around the world. But no matter where we went, you had pace. It's a general question, but how would you sum up the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series experience from the end of December to the beginning of April? Just talk about your experience and what it took for you to become the champion for the second time in 3 series.
Well, it's been a good season. I would say if I could sum it up in one word, it would be consistent. And sometimes consistency is more powerful than raw speed. I would say that at the start of the season, based on the driver lineup, I knew that Andrew was going to be fast. He had shown in his second season that he was very, very quick. And I was obviously conscious of it. I acknowledged it, but I didn't let it worry me too much. I just said I was going to drive my race. You know, what happens, happens. And I just kind of went along. And I believe what ultimately gave me the championship was just small little mistakes from the other people that were trying to beat me, and just me making not a perfect race, but smaller mistakes than what they were making.
Right, your consistency, you said that was your word of the season, and I don't think you could have put it any better. I think that's what separates you from the others in terms of pace. So we have guys like Andrew, like Max, like Trevor, who have that pace at each individual race, but you always have that extra gear, and it's something that has worked for you for multiple seasons. And I mean, I gotta ask you about tonight's race, because again, Laguna Seca, it's a track that in Season 1 of our series, the second race I ever put on, you won there. You beat now Formula 4 driver Matt Clark, who's had a great go of it for himself in real life since then. But as well, I mean, in Season 2, when he came back here in the IR18s, you had that wreck towards the end of the race there with Andrew, which unfortunately put you out of that event. But now your third time back to Laguna Seca, as a track you've run in multiple seasons now, you just looked lights out tonight. I know that you were running insane times in your practice times off track. Just what is it? What do you like about this track so much that makes it such a good pick for you to take home win number 10 in our finale race?
I believe I touched on this in the previous race. Correction, not the previous race, Spa, which would have been 2 races ago.
Yeah.
Where I talked to you about tracks that flow well seem to suit me, right? As in long sweeping corners, elevation in the correct places that make a track flow. And I believe I said that Laguna does share those qualities as well. So I believe that with the amount that I've raced this track, not only in these series, but back when I was 10, I think, I started racing this track in other games. Those two things combined just allowed me to, I think that's why I'm so fast here. I didn't try to go as fast as I possibly could in the race. Previous experiences showed that little mistakes here and there can end up being a wall in the face, right? Just because of the dirt and how easily the car will lose traction on the sand. So all I really said to myself was, if you can match Andrew's pace, then that's good enough, and just don't push it too farther or else you risk crashing.
Absolutely, and that big, heads up approach and the big picture approach you take to an entire season is what I think has separated you from anybody else in the season, and I think will continue to do so in your real life endeavors. Because Logan, you found success in real life karting endeavors. I know that firsthand, and you're one of the few guys in the series I've been lucky enough to meet in person, and I know that you're going to continue to do it in your real life racing endeavors again once we get back on the track come hopefully May. But you do it again in this series, man. And as we come to the end of the year, the final thing to round it off on in this interview and the entire season as a whole is just, what is next? I mean, first of all, talk about the rest of your season. What's going on with you in real life karting? I know that's kind of your neck of the woods for some of you that aren't here in the local Canada area that may not know. But in terms of tonight, in terms of going forward to your real life endeavors, as well as the future series, just what does the future look like for you, Logan, to round off this year?
Well, of course, I plan on doing the next race series you create, and I'm sure many to come. In regards to real life, obviously this COVID situation is going to make things a little bit difficult, but we have made so last year I was in Briggs, which is essentially one step above what you'll know is called a Rive and Drive.
Yep.
And we've now taken another step up into two-stroke, which is essentially one step above what I was doing last year, Briggs. And essentially, we aim to do as well as we can at the Canadian national level. And if all goes well, and the championship overall goes well, there is a chance to go to the World Finals. Sometime I believe in 2022 they're held. So that's it's a big thing to think about. Something I choose not to think about, because I think that if you think about an overall goal more than what's right in front of you, you end up missing little things that are, crucial to attaining that goal.
Right.
But it's a big thing to think about, but I'm certainly going to try to get there, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Well, as am I, man. I wish you just the best of luck in anything you do in the future, and for now multiple seasons of my series, not only coming out, not only participating, I think every race. I don't know, maybe you have missed a race somewhere here and there, but man, your consistency both here, coming out to practices, and just your consistency on track. You provide a benchmark. I know I've said it many times and probably said it to death at this point, but man, you're a bar for everybody else to live up to. And I know if I were in the series, I would want that, somebody to look up to and somebody to try to improve to be on the same level as. But for now, you continue to find a way, man, and going forward into the future, whatever it may be, whatever the series may look like, the first invitation will go to you, man, and for good reason. So for the last time this year, to round it off, not only will you be going away with $100 because you've won the series and taken home the top prize pot, but also we got to, for the final time, give you your shout-outs, give you your opportunity to thank anybody at home. In fact, Justin, who was up in the broadcast booth after he had VR issues to start, he already gave a thanks to your family for watching as always, and to yourself for winning tonight's race. But this is your opportunity if you want to thank anybody at home, thank your dad in the series, or mention any sponsors, because I know you're getting more and more as your real life endeavors get more and more successful and going forward.
Well, I'd like to thank my family, obviously, for watching all these broadcasts. I get tons of text messages all the time, and they're really cool to see. I'd like to thank Special Interest Auto. I'd like to thank Prime Power Team and Franklin Self Storage, particularly Franklin Self Storage, for the amazing deal they've given me. I can't thank them enough for that. And finally, Marshall, I'm very grateful for what you've done. It's really nice to be able to sit down on a Friday afternoon and put concentration into something that I love doing. It really does mean a lot to me, man, and I'm really thankful that you put this together, so thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, again, it always goes back to you as well, Logan. I mean, thank you so much for every race, to your family, for everything they've done. I'm going to get into my long final spiel here, thanking everybody at home, and there's a long list for that, but your family and yourself are most certainly at the top of that list. It's been so nice to have both of you guys here, and your not only your dad joining in this season, he was always great and in a huge factor in the comments every week, but now to your mom, who always comes out as always, and they deserve to have a son who's as successful as you've been, and well, I think you're making those people at home who watch for you proud. You did so awesome this season, Logan, taking away 10 wins in a year that was as competitive as this. I couldn't have imagined before the season starts, but you always find a way. So congratulations for the final time this year, Logan. I really hope we can talk in the near future, and I hope we'll see you more than sooner rather than later when the next series, again, whatever it may be, gets up and running. Again, you'll have the first interview, and well, maybe not the first interview, but you'll have the first invite, and I can't wait. So just have a great rest of your week, Logan. Have a great rest of your month, and I wish you the best of luck once the karting season does hopefully start in May. I know you'll do great, but you got my support, and I'm sure many people at home as well.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. You have a nice rest of your week.
Awesome. Thank you, man. And with that, for the final time this year, we round off the interview. Series champion Logan Paxa. Really wish I could have come up with a better graphic, but the template I have this year, unlike my old Karsten Computers one, is just not quite as easy to work with when it comes to adding details. So I did the best I could. I wanted to make a proper slide for outros and thanking everybody at home. Maybe I have time. Maybe in the recut of this race, I'll be sure to put it in. But that's the part. We're going to throw up the final results here tonight one more time, just so you guys can keep them down and remember them at home. And well, we can consult them for practice. I'm not going to put up the final points tallies, but we can officially state that Andrew Bedrosian is second in the final points, and Max Preston will come home third in the final championship standings, meaning he will take away $25 in prize money. Andrew Bedrosian will take away a combined 60, because I believe he will have the least incident points on the season, thus being your most clean driver is the award that I was going to hand out. And second in the points, and Logan comes away with a grand prize of $100 Canadian as your series champion. But there are your final results. Feel free to go over them once again, but again, I don't want to go too late because it's already late enough in tonight's race, and you guys have given me enough of your attention and enough of your time so far this season. But to everybody, I just want to say that as much time as I put into doing this series, and as much time as it takes to get this thing up and running, it's more than worth it because of you guys at home and the drivers. I mean, as little as it may seem in the moment to you guys who may put a positive comment there in the chat, or to somebody like Logan or anybody who gives thanks at the end of their interview, it means more to me than I can truly put into words. And having the season is something I can do every week as I make my way through university and through an uncertain time like COVID. It's just as supportive for me as it is for you guys at home, and for my opportunities to drive with these guys during practice and get some racing in, man. It just means so much to me. And for all you guys at home, I've said it at the end of every broadcast, but I genuinely do mean that so much. And tonight especially, putting apart so much of your time to come out to these races and support them and support me and support your drivers, it means so much. So again, I'm not going to clap into my mic because it probably wouldn't respond nicely to that, though it is a nice mic. I just thank you so much. Thank you to Vince Ball, our race director, who again, he's been behind the scenes the entire time, but he deserves all the thanks in the world because he does so much for me on really such short notice for his very first race, but he's stuck with me every race. He's always good to send such long, detailed reports, and it's exactly what I need when I can't be there in the race session, listening to what's happening on track, watching every single aspect of the events. He just does so much there in the background, so I got to thank him. I want to thank Michael Krobach, who wasn't able to run tonight. I know, again, Andrew mentioned he was helping him up there in the spotters tower, the same way that Josh was for Caleb, but man, and Michael he's our oval guy for a reason. I really hope that in the future we can schedule the future series so that he can come back full time, because those of you that have watched the Karsten Computers second season will know just how much of a force he is on the racetrack. And man, I'm so grateful for him in so many ways, and he helps people out behind the scenes. He was so crucial to that series, and he's so great to have in this one too. So I hope going forward we can figure out a timeline that works better for him. But man, he just deserves a thanks as well. Same with Woody Mahan, who again wasn't able to run tonight, but had a great start to the year. He's somebody that I ran the 24 Hours of Daytona with this year, and it was my pleasure. Really hope him and I and Trevor Anderson, who also ran with us, can do some more events like that in the future. But also John Guerra, Manuel Guerra, Renee Hart, all those guys that ran a couple one-off appearances this season. Sam Horde, good friend of Sim Salvatore, who ran a couple races with us. Anybody that ran a race with us in the calendar all year. It means so much to me to get those turnouts, have guys putting aside their time to run in a series that I enjoy and I put a lot of passion into. And yeah, just finally, again, all of you guys at home, those who come to support any driver, no matter where they may be from, it means as much to me as it does to them. I guarantee it. So that'll about round off tonight. I don't want to keep you guys too long because I have before, but again, I won't make any guarantees, but in the future, I'm thinking Heatwave Open Wheel Racing Series is the next step of this series as the summer equivalent to the winter Snowstorm Series. And hey, as I got off to university, it looks like I'll have enough of a tech setup that I can continue things just in this format, just as we have been so far, once I go off to university in Toronto for good. And, well, we can continue this on in another factor, and I want many seasons of this series, of the Heatwave series. We're going to make things bigger and better. I'm going to talk to my good friend who I broadcast with on Wednesdays. We're going to hopefully get his help, because he's a great graphic designer. We're going to get his help making some bigger graphics. Things are going to look more polished than ever. I'm going to look for a full-time side commentator. We're going to hopefully get Vince back and get some more help there on the back end and behind the scenes stuff. And I promise you guys that I do nothing in my free time but try to make this series bigger and better going forward. So hey, let's hope for a great next season. Hopefully we'll all see you out in a couple months for whatever the Heatwave Open Racing Series does turn into. But one more shout out for myself, or actually, well, let's do two more personal shout outs for people in my family. First of all, I want to thank my girlfriend, Mariana. You see her in the chat all the time. She is just such a huge part of my life, not just the series, but man, she's so important to me. It's seeing her in the chat there, even when we're not together, is it means the world to me. And she's actually the one that designed the logo at the start of the season, so you can give her props for that as well. But she means so much to me, so thank you to her. I never actually get a proper interview because not in the series, so I never get the chance to say that. But thank you to her. Thank you to my dad. Again, I thanked him earlier, but it's played such a part in getting the tech up to snuff with this series and everything like that, and everything behind the scenes. So he plays such a huge part as well. Thank you to my family. Thank you to my parents for giving me this opportunity to go away for Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, all this time I have to spend on this series and put this time down. Same to Amy Jo, my family in both cities that I live in. It just means the world to me. So that's my spiel. I'm going to head off for the end of the season. But for the final time this year, for round number 15, the finale of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series first season from 2020 to 2021, I'm your commentator. That's not a track map. That's me, Mr. Marshall Crocker Jr., signing off tonight. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Have a great rest of your April season. Have a great Easter. And we will see you all sometime in the future. Good night, everybody.